Stay in the know and make your voice heard on different projects happening in your neighborhood and throughout Hillsborough County by visiting Hillsborough County's Engagement Hub, the online home for outreach and listening efforts. From parks and recreation projects to roadway improvement plans, your input plays an important role in shaping the future of Hillsborough County. So make your voice heard by visiting hcflgov.net/hcengage.
Hillsborough County's Customer Service Center makes submitting a service request quick and simple, directly notifying the responsible service team. You can create a user account to make tracking the progress of your service request virtually effortless. Simply click on the appropriate service tab and then select from a list of common requests, or provide a description of any concern that is not listed. Enter the reported address manually to allow us to pinpoint the request. Including specific details and pictures helps guide service providers in fulfilling your request. Creating an account and logging in with your username gives you the ability to track the progress of all your requests to completion. Hillsborough County's customer service requests are just that simple. We're at your service 24/7.
Good morning and welcome to December 12th, 2023, a regularly scheduled land use meeting of the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. Would everyone please rise for the pledge and invocation given by our chaplain, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, we come before you today with thanksgiving, and we ask you to bless this meeting today. We ask you to bless every commissioner and everyone that works with Hillsborough County, that we'll make right choices, that will be a huge blessing for all of Hillsborough County. We pray for peace, love, and prosperity for everyone in this county. And we continue to lift up the hostages for their safe return, quick and safe return. And we pray for peace for all their families. And we pray for peace. And we pray for all those that are affected by the wars. And we thank you in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. Mr. Grady, want to review any changes to the agenda?
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Grady, Hillsborough County Development Services. We do have three changes to the agenda on the addendum, and once I go through those, and I'll go through the published withdrawals and continuances beginning on page 3 of the agenda. And the first change is on page 6 of the agenda, item B1, Major Mod Application 23-0281. The applicant is requesting a remand of this application to the January 16, 2024 zoning hearing master hearing. Then item 2 on page 11, item E2, PRS 23-0972. There's additional party records that have been added to the backup. And then on agenda page 16, item F5, rezoning standard 23-0552. We received revised applicant restrictions that have been added to the backup that were a result of discussions at the last board meeting and further discussions with area residents. Those are the changes to the addendum. Now I'll go through the published withdrawals and continuances beginning on page 3 of the agenda. First item is item A1, rezoning PD 18-0996. This staff is requesting this item be continued to the January 9th, 2024 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A2, PRS application 23-0136. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the January 9th, 2024 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A3, PRS 23-0299. This application has been withdrawn by the applicant. Item A4, DRI 23-0335. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the January 9th, 2024 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A5, PRS 23-0372. This application is withdrawn by the applicant. Item A6, PRS 23-0382. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the January 9th, 2022 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A7, special use application LE 23-0498. This application is being continued by the applicant as a matter of right to the February 13th, 2024 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A8, PRS 23-0508. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the January 9th, 2024 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A9, DRI 23-0591. Staff is requesting this item be continued to the January 9th, 2024 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A10, PRS application 23-0767. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the January 9th, 2024 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A11, PRS application 23-0789. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the January 9th, 2024 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A12, PRS application 23-0838. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the January 9th, 2024 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting on 9 a.m. Item A13, PRS application 23-0877. Staff is requesting this item be continued to the January 9th, 2024 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Application A14, special use application LE 23-1003. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the January 9th, 2024 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A15, PRS application 24-0012. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the January 9th, 2024 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A16, PRS application 24-0013, Catholic Charities. This application will be continued by the applicant as a matter of right to the January 9, 2024 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A17, PRS application 24-0018. This application is withdrawn by the applicant. Item A18, PRS application 24-0027. This application is out of order to be heard and has been continued to the January 9, 2024 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A19, vacation petition 22-0005. This staff is requesting this item be continued to the January 9th, 2024 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. Item A20, vacation petition 22-0019. Staff is requesting this item be continued to the January 9th, 2024 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. And item A21, vacation petition 23-0011. Staff is requesting this item be continued to the January 9th, 2024 Board of County Commissioners Land Use meeting at 9 a.m. That concludes changes to the agenda.
Can I have a motion to approve the changes? Motion, Commissioner Cohen, second Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote on the changes to the agenda.
Motion carried, 7-0.
All right, can we have a motion on the consent agenda? Motion, Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Cohen. So no comments, please record your vote on the consent agenda.
Commissioner Kemp. Motion carried, 7-0.
All right, so anyone here for a B item, your application's been approved. At this time, if you are planning on testifying today, please stand, raise your right hand, and so the clerk can swear you in.
If you're providing testimony, you need to stand up. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you. You may be seated.
All right, Mr. Grady, we're on the public hearing agenda.
The first item is agenda item E1, PRS 23-0968. The applicant is Tim Morankin. The request is for a minor modification to a plan development for a parcel that's located at the northwest corner of Eichenfeld Drive and Meadow Oaks Avenue in Brandon. The request is to modify the number of access points and setbacks. The project has 2 access points now in Eichenfeld. The request is to reduce it to 1 access point and to also modify setbacks along the eastern boundary to accommodate redesign of going from multiple buildings to a single building. Staff has reviewed this and is recommending approval. Thank you.
All right, is the applicant here? Applicant for E1. All right, what's the pledge of the board? Commissioner Owen?
Yeah, I don't like it when the applicant's not here, but I have reviewed this one. This is my district, and all they're basically trying to do, commissioners, is they're combining to 1 location, and there'll be 1 access point. So I don't see any issue with this, so I'll move for approval.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion to approve by Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Wostel. If no comments, please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Next item.
The next item is agenda item E2 is PRS application 23-0972. This is a minor modification of plan development that's located on the west side of Kinnan Street, just at the county line with Pasco County in the north central portion of the county. The request is this project is approved for residential development with various development options for single family and townhome. They're modifying one of the development options to modify the number of access points and the site layout, and for the overall P add residency age restrictions of 55 plus. With respect to access, they're going from 2 access points on the Kinnan Street to 1 access point, and then they're also adding a pedestrian and golf cart access along the northern boundary to an adjacent development that's in Pasco County. Staff has reviewed this and is recommending approval.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here?
So, Commissioners, I've been advised that due to the number of, okay, we have the applicant rep here.
We can hardly hear you. I'm sorry.
Please be quiet, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, hold on. He's for E1. E1's been approved.
E1's been approved. Your E1? E1's been approved. Yeah, so we got it. So we're looking for the applicant.
So, Commissioners, we've been advised that due to the number of people in the room, There are some people who have not been let in, so I note that the applicant does not appear to be in the room.
All right, we'll continue this item and come back to it once the applicant arrives. I know the number of people have interest in this item. Do we need a motion to continue it, or? All right, we'll take it up, the last of the E items.
Second.
Okay, motion to continue by Commissioner Kemp, second Commissioner Wostel. Please record your vote.
Yeah, I think they're all.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, E3.
The next item is agenda item E3, PRS application 24-0014, the applicant Circle K Stores Incorporated. This is a request for a parcel that's located at the northeast corner of Big Bend Road and Balm Riverview Road. The parcel was recently approved for a convenience store with gas and also a car wash. This change is related to the car wash, where they're modifying the location of the parking and queuing lanes associated with the parking, associated with the car wash. Staff has reviewed this and recommending approval.
Is the applicant here?
Good morning, Cammie Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward & Henderson, representing the applicant. I don't really have anything to add. This is a pretty straightforward one. You all approved this unanimously back in April, and we're just realigning the car wash. We're kind of a victim of our own detail on our site plan. So we'd respectfully request your approval this morning.
All right, anyone here in support of E3? Anyone in opposition? All right, can we have a motion?
Move approval. Second.
Motion to approve Commissioner Cohen, I think. Second, Commissioner Myers. No comments. Please record your vote. E3.
Motion carried 7-0.
Next item.
Commissioners, next item is agenda item E4, PRS application 24-0019. This is a parcel that's located on the southeast corner of Big Bend Road and Sims Road and in the Gibsonton area. The request is to modify parcel 1 within the PD to increase overall square footage by 550 square feet and also modify the location, parking, and loading areas based on a very detailed plan that was submitted as part of the original approval. Staff has reviewed this and is recommending approval.
All right, is the applicant here for E4? All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
Move for approval.
Motion to approve Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Cohen. If no comments on E4, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Next item.
The next item is agenda item E5, PRS 24-0023. Israel Monsanto with the county staff will provide a brief overview of the request and staff's recommendation.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is PRS 24-0023. This is a PD in the university area, which is today known as the University Mall. The existing approval for this PD is commercial general uses, office uses, urban mixed-use project with up to 0.5 FAR or 2.0 FAR, 35 dwelling units per the acre, and allows also the use of the FAR in lieu of density for residential projects. There's a total of 12 internal street typologies accommodating vehicular and pedestrian traffic, and also 16 development blocks. There is also building design and block development standard for each street type. This modification today seeks to combine block 2, 3, and 4 into one single block, which will be new block number 2. It will also add an access easement for multi-use trail along the north and east of this proposed new block, which will be open to the public. It will modify condition 5.2 to allow this new block number 2 to be developed without streets on all sides. And it will also add design conditions for a multi-family development when facing this proposed trail. In the proposed conditions, Commissioners, you have condition 5.2 with the changes proposed. 3 main changes that staff is supporting. An access easements area will be provided 10 feet wide for the multi-use trail, which will be for pedestrian and bikes. This will be provided along the north and east of this new block, as shown in the proposed development plan. This access easement will be recorded prior to construction plans approval for any project in that block. No more than 6 months after the initial COs have been issued for this project, In block number 2, the developer will be required to submit a site development plan application for the multi-use trail, and this trail shall be built and completed no later than 12 months after that issuance of the initial CO. And lastly, multifamily building facades facing the trail areas will consist of windows and/or balconies at a minimum rate of 50% of the wall area. So those are the proposed changes that staff is supporting, and I believe the applicant is here to present the case and may propose updated conditions as well.
All right, thank you. The applicant, come forward.
Commissioner, the applicant was downstairs with their team, and so we've asked them to come up, so they hopefully are coming up any moment.
All right, we're going to continue this to the next item. So staff needs to do a better job of letting the applicants in the room in the future. All right, can we continue this to the next time? We have a motion.
Move to continue.
Motion, Commissioner Owen, second, Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
All right, next item.
We do have the applicant for E2 here, Commissioner.
Let's knock these other ones out, because that one may take a little while.
Okay.
So E6.
The next item is agenda item E6, PRS 24-0024. The request is for a minor modification of project is on East Fletcher Avenue, on the north side of Fletcher Avenue in the USF area. The project is modifying setbacks, building coverage, and building height and traffic circulation to modify, revise traffic circulation for student housing projects. Staff has reviewed this and is recommending approval of subject to conditions.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant here for E6?
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. Colin Rice with the law firm of Boulder Lundy, 1000 West Cass Street, here on behalf of Subtext Acquisitions, LLC, the applicant. We do actually have a couple of folks from the applicant group trying to make their way upstairs, but we can be brief. There are no objections from staff. We held a neighborhood meeting. There's no known opposition to this project, same number of beds. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Anyone here in support? Anyone in opposition? Not, can we have a motion?
Move for approval.
Motion approved, Commissioner Myers. Second, Commissioner Wostel. Please record your vote on E6.
Motion carried, 7-0.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
E7.
The next agenda item is E7, CDD 23-620. This is a petition to establish the Berry Bay Community Development District. This petition has submitted by 301 Waimama LLC to establish the Berry Bay 2 CDD Community Development District. The Berry Bay 2 CDD will encompass approximately 635 acres and is located east of U.S. Highway 301 on the west side of South County Road 579 on the north side of Southfield Road in Waimama. No objections to the proposed CDD were raised. Staff finds the applicant meets the requirements of Chapter 190 Florida statutes to establish community development district and recommends approval. Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Brian Lamb with Infomark, authorized agent for 301 Waimama LLC. I've been sworn. Happy to answer any questions regarding the petition to create the district this morning.
Anyone here in support of the application? Anyone opposed? Any opposition? If not, can we have a motion?
Move for approval.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Owen, second, Commissioner Myers. If no comments, please record your vote on E7.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Has the applicant for E5?
Yes, we've located the applicant for E5. It's in the room. Just go ahead and introduce it.
Again, we're going back to agenda item E5. This is PRS 24-0023. As noted in the staff's presentation, we are recommending approval. The applicant's now at the applicant presentation point.
All right, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. So sorry to be late this morning and cause a disruption in the agenda. This is, you've already heard from staff. they've told you this is the old University Mall project. It is located north of Fowler Avenue. It's part of the redevelopment of the former University Mall site. It is within the University Area Community Planning Area and the University Regional Activity Center. All of the site is ICMU 35. This was actually designed, the ICMU 35 category was designed specifically for this particular project. Current zoning is a PD, and the request today, this is what the existing PD site plan looks like. There's 3 smaller blocks, and our request would be to combine block 2, 3, and 4, and to realign Club Drive. So the existing Club Drive, as you can see in the before, goes through the middle of the block. We're asking to realign that along the southern boundary of that block. So there is a project that's already built out at the University Mall. That's the renderings that you see here. This is the existing Hub 1. It's a multifamily project, but it is catering to students, particularly students at the university. The proposed modifications would allow a second project just like this one to go in very close proximity to the first. These are the existing conditions of the area. As you can see, this is an area that is still ripe for redevelopment. There has been some redevelopment at the University Mall, but this would be, I believe, the 3rd section to come in for redevelopment. So this is a map. Planning Commission, if you read through the staff report, Planning Commission had mentioned that this was a creation of a super block. But the size of this revised block is actually the same as the majority of all of the other blocks within the site. Those were all found consistent with respect to size. They're all between 1,900 and 2,400 linear feet. And proposed new block 2 squarely falls within the majority of the blocks, but more importantly, it's consistent with existing conditions of the PD, which avoid anything over 2,500 feet. So I also wanted to point out the walking and cycling lengths. So if you can see here, the purple is the way that the roads realign today. The red represents the realignment of the roadway, and the blue represents a new proposed trail to go on the north and the eastern boundary of the property. In fact, the lengths of all of these are exactly, well, within 1 feet of 1,205 feet. So what's existing today and what is being proposed is all the same length with respect to connectivity. One of the big issues when we were working with staff was to make sure that we were maintaining walkability and connectivity. So we believe that this proposal does that. So there are some significant safety concerns about this particular project and this area that we want to bring to your attention. Specifically, we understand that this area is going to transition at some point in time, but it has not transitioned yet. In fact, as you may recall, when the applicant opened the initial Hub 1, which is the renderings that you just saw, since August of 2023, the incident list that they have provided and will be turning into the record includes grand theft auto, motorcycle theft, trespassing, and kidnapping with armed robbery. These are real issues and raise real safety concerns. So when we were working through this issue with the Planning Commission, they were concerned about the elimination of the roadway through the middle of the property. We would prefer to have no trail, but we did put the trail on the site plan to maintain that walkability and connectivity. In fact, the initial plan for Hub 1 was that there was a part-time security officer. They've actually had to increase that to 3 security officers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we are requesting one of 2 things from the board. We would request that this board either eliminate the requirement for the trail, that would be our preferred option, or we have amended conditions. The amended conditions would allow the closure of that trail from dusk to dawn during the time periods when most of these incidents occur during the dark. So we're going to leave that option up to the board. either to eliminate the requirement of the trail, which is preferred, or to limit it to closure, just being open during the day and closed from dusk to dawn. Mr. Chair, we want to submit 3 things for your consideration. One are the proposed conditions, which amend the conditions that staff had. The second is just a summary of the incident report, so you have those. And the third one is a letter from Unison Senior Living. I want to read just a little bit of that into the record. This is the senior living facility that would be directly north of the trail on the adjoining property. And we'll submit this into the record. This is from Richard Ackerman. My name is Richard Ackerman. I'm the managing partner for BRP Senior Housing Management. We're the managers of the senior community on behalf of Tampa Life Plan Village. I am writing to express our concern regarding the requested public access pathway that is proposed to be located between our existing senior housing community and the proposed Core Spaces new student housing development. At Unison, our primary focus has always been the well-being of our residents, many of whom are elderly individuals requiring special attention and care. We have discussed the proposed public access pathway with both Core Spaces and RD management, and we feel it poses significant concerns relative to the security and tranquility of our guests. We fully support initiatives at improving our community and its accessibility. However, we urge the Board of County Commissioners to consider the unique needs and vulnerabilities of our senior residents before mandating public access in this proposed location. Our strong preference would be to provide for access along the existing roadways through widening of the thoroughfares as set forth on the attached plan, and it has a copy of the plan. So with your approval, I'll submit those into the record. And Suzanne, would you provide copies just to the commissioners? So in addition to normal architecture, we have incorporated various design elements of CPSEPTED, which is crime prevention through environmental design. Those particular proposed design elements are as follows. We have access controls, video surveillance, and special lighting. And finally, in order to make sure that we're incorporating the building, should you choose to keep the trail and hopefully allow us to close that trail during certain periods of time, we have committed to incorporating windows and balconies and architectural elements on that back side, which would be on the proposed trail. Again, we'd like the board to consider both of those options. So with that, we are going to open it up to any questions or comments that you may have to the applicant and the team. We respectfully request your approval of the PRS, but would ask initially that you eliminate the trail, or secondarily that you accept the proposed amended conditions, which would allow the closure of the trail between dusk and dawn. Thank you for your time, and we're available.
All right, thank you. Any proponent testimony? Anyone here in support? Any opposition testimony? Okay, Commissioner Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Commissioner Myers, this is ultimately your district, but when USF kids are involved, it kind of affects everybody. So my issues were the safety concerns, because what we're, Mr. Gormley, what's going on here is this Pod A, this is more student housing, basically. We're just kind of combining this all into one student housing, correct?
Correct, that's the request.
So for me, you know, when you're talking about the public use component, to make something accessible for certain times, doesn't that kind of conflict with when something becomes a public use? I guess what I'm getting at, I'm concerned with a precedent that it would set if we put those parameters on there to close it from, say, dusk till dawn, because that's not something traditionally done if it's for a public use, correct?
Correct. Typically, when we get a public use easement, public access,
microphone.
it doesn't have. Thank you. Correct. Yes. Typically, when we have a public use or public access easement, it is the full rights easement, and we don't typically have an easement with those type of closure hours associated with it.
Right, and I hate closing trails, but obviously the safety concerns for students at universities. I mean, this is long-standing that there's been lots of issues related to safety concerns at universities, not just USF, but across the state. So for me, that is a big concern. And again, Commissioner Myers, this is not my district, but for me, I would I would lean towards what the applicant's counsel says to, listen, I don't like eliminating trails. We need more trails in Hillsborough County, but because of the safety concerns, it really does concern me. So I'll sit back and listen to other commissioners, but that's where I would lean towards, is that we would approve this and eliminate the trail altogether. Thank you.
Commissioner Wostel.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm that the preferred action was that we remove the pathway according to this letter from Mr. Ackerman. That's your number one goal, right? Okay. I'll support whatever, any of these options. I'm fine. Thank you.
Commissioner Cohen.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really willing to go along with whatever the board thinks is best here, although I do think we should choose one of the two. You know, one of the reasons to keep the trail, I think, is that whatever the conditions are now, it's our hope and expectation that this area is going to improve. And the trail would be a nice amenity maybe down the road when that's the case. The only question I had for the applicant, I just want to understand, if we were to remove the trail entirely, what enhancements are you saying you're going to make on the front end to allow for pedestrian and bicycle activity?
So there is a type of road that has both pedestrian and bicycle connectivity. If you can put back up on the screen, please, the map. So the area in red is also proposed. So the blue is the trail, but the red area actually, do you have something better, Israel, that you're? Oh, the red is actually a street type that includes bicycle and pedestrian areas along the roadway. So that would connect the realignment of Club Drive. And again, the length to walk and maintain connection is exactly the same as it is today. It's just realigned.
But this would have a full sidewalk and,
sir.
And be built out to standards?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. I mean, Commissioner Myers?
Commissioner Myers.
Tell us what you think.
And thank you for sharing your comments, because I wanted to hear from the board members first before I speak. Thank you for remaining there.
Yes, ma'am.
Regarding the trail, and you're talking about closing it from dusk to dawn, how would the students get around to walk a shorter cut to get to their
sure.
place?
So the project is going to be oriented towards the red area, which is, they took it off again, but which is the roadway, right? Part of the conditions of the approval already today require integration to the street, doorways facing there. And so there would be plenty of areas for the students to walk within the project as well as along the red area here. The trail is really along the back area. It would be along a parking garage and some multifamily buildings. But again, you know, because it is student housing and because the area hasn't transitioned yet, the concern is, of course, safety.
And what are you going to do about lighting? Because it's on the back end for night.
Yes.
If you close it.
That's right. So one of the things that your SEPTED principles require and encourage is what they call, you know, eyes out. And so there will be windows and areas and significant safety lighting all throughout the site, as well as video surveillance. And we have 3 security guards 24 hours, 7 days a week at the first phase. I assume there would be something very similar as well.
Okay. Well, I'm in mixed, really in closing it because of the public access, but safety is number one. And so I'm going to support to close it from dusk to dawn. And hopefully we have no more incidents. So that'll be my motion, to dusk to dawn.
I'll second it.
Okay, Commissioner Kemp.
Yeah, the internal walkway that you talk about, so is that going to be open 24 hours to everyone?
Yes, so the students that live there have full access to the site. It is going to be, you know, they'll have card access just like in a lot of student housing projects. So it's going to be a larger building. If I go back, let me go back just so you can see. So you can see here, this is the first project, but this would be similarly situated where there's plenty of internal connectivity for the project itself. I think that the concern from the Planning Commission was more external connectivity. But again, because of the nature of the project, we just have those concerns with the trail going through the back.
I understand, but in terms of accessing these, were you saying limited access if you walk into your building or limited access if you walk onto that sidewalk?
Joe, from an internal connectivity standpoint, like what's going to happen in the site, can you explain? He knows more about the architecture.
If I,
Give your name and address.
can you identify yourself on the record? My name is Joe Gatto. I'm with the applicant Core Spaces, and I live at 2135 North Lakewood in Chicago, Illinois. And just so I understand the question a little bit better.
Yes. My question was, in the internal access there, is it going to be like a normal, regular road like we'd expect in any neighborhood where it's not limited access to just the people that live in the buildings?
Correct. And I think then I understand the question. And so if you remember on the screen, the lower proposed road relocation will have 24/7 access to the public. It'll have extra wide sidewalks. And so, for frame of reference, in most neighborhoods, the sidewalk is anywhere between 3 and 5 feet. This would have a minimum of 12 feet, 12-foot sidewalks. Have likely some additional separation to the buildings for some internal not courtyards, but patios for some of the residents, increasing eyes on the street, increasing activity, which is really important to have a successful project. And so yes, the red, if you can see it, would be open 24/7 to the public and students or residents alike.
Okay, so the kind of safety measures that you talk about then would be people that live in the buildings would have cards, access cards, not to get onto the street, to be clear. That sounds
Yes.
like what you're confirming.
Yes,
Okay, okay. And the other, just in terms of, I'll just say, so what happens, okay, so this is set aside now for a trail around the outside.
No, there's no trail on the site plan today. The trail was something that staff, well, the Planning Commission asked for. We put it on the site, but, and again, we always want all of staff support. So that there is no trail today. In fact, if you go back to the site plan, I'm going to go back here for you. The roadway, if you can see, let me actually go a couple more. I think this is okay. You see how the yellow road goes through?
Yes.
There's no trail along the east or the north. We're just taking that yellow road and moving it to the perimeter of the site because there's going to be buildings in the middle.
Right.
So, same length, it's just relocated.
So I'm asking about the most east. What is in the other one blue?
Yes.
If we get the other one up, the blue part that I guess that is proposed, is that it? You
Yes, I
proposed
wish-
that when you did this?
Yes,
for staff? Because,
Yes.
but you talked about having it there in the future, but right now
It's not there today, with the exception, if you see the yellow in the top, the roadway itself goes a little bit on that eastern boundary, and then it cuts through. So if you look at the northern boundary and most of the eastern boundary, there's no connectivity there today.
Okay, well, I know, but I mean, we're talking about what you're going to be doing for the future.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, there's no buildings there today. I mean, they're not there either. So what, in terms of this proposal, okay, like that you would put in a trail, but, close it from dawn to dusk, but the idea would be perhaps if things change in the future, in 10 years, that could be open, or just the fact that it's there. It just seems, I've gone through and part of those SEPTED guidelines are that there are people out on the streets and that you have good lighting. And if you have windows and balconies and others facing around and looking down, it would seem that would make that perimeter safer as well as lit, so that if even I'm okay with it being closed now from dawn to dusk, because I would like it to exist there so that in the future you might be able to open it up, but also so that it could be a kind of protective barrier. People looking out, seeing it, it being lit in the evenings, well lit, and having it there as options for the future as well.
Do you want to address that, Joe?
Can I,
Please.
Can I add? And I'm just, I'm Joe Gatto for the record, and I'm the developer of this site, but we're working in close concert with RD Management, who's the developer of the broader, formerly known University Mall, Rhythm now. And I would say, from urban planning perspective and working with him and understanding his needs, he's trying to push people towards the retail, right, to help create a more successful mall in general, right, which helps him to retain existing businesses and grow by adding more businesses. I think one of the things that's challenging to understand is looking at this on a map, right? When you go to the site, I think it's a little, that was one of the things as we were diligencing this request, talking with the neighbor, walking the site with the owner and property manager who really knows what the tenant's needs are. It looks like it makes sense on a map more so than when you're in person, right? Because the landscaping that's actually off of our property line is not very inviting, and there's no eyes on one side of the trail, right, which is going to increase likelihood of, or an opportunity for someone who wanted to do anything, criminally might, be incentivized to, because there's less eyes on that area. Additionally, then, in talking with the neighbor to the north, this site doesn't have many neighbors, but the one neighbor that we do have, we've tried to keep in close contact with, as the proposal evolved, and they're shown through the letter, as noted earlier, to really have some strong feelings as well. So we're trying to balance everyone's needs and goals and totally respect and appreciate the long-term ideal of having more bike trails. I bike to work. I'm a big proponent of more trails to the extent possible. I think when we triangulated between all the needs, it made more sense to push it to the south and west and have a more new urbanist style development rather than a trail and a more rural development that's kind of going through a heavily landscaped area.
I have a suggestion, maybe, for you to consider. Perhaps we could craft a condition with staff that requires us to come back to you or to build it within a certain period of years, and then we can reevaluate at that point in time if there's still lots of incidents reports. It doesn't require the trail today, but it assures the connectivity and walkability in the future when things perhaps change down the road. It's just a suggestion. We'd be happy to work with staff and craft something up. It's just something to think about.
Yeah. And with the development of the mall, it was as you know, it was just hugely based on connectivity, walkability, a mix of housing, mixed use, having people live there and having successful businesses and workplaces, and I imagine at some time on that area that you're, the other area, it's huge parking lots. I've been around it a lot of times. I check on it pretty often when I'm up there just to see. But so the other part across from that will probably, it would make sense for it to be developed at some time, I imagine, in the way that it is with housing, rather than, since there aren't, any kind of stores or anything there. It's just open parking. And then you have that big spread to the north with the senior living facility and a lot of wetlands around, there or
Commissioner
water.
Kemp, if you recall, one of the things for those of you, Commissioner Hagan, Commissioner Meyer, maybe, if you recall, the way that the site plan was originally, the idea was that we had a core center in the center of the site, and that the walkability and the main areas of pedestrian walkability were concentrated in that. That's we have different type A streets there, wider sidewalks, to encourage that. And the further you get out, the types of street changes. And I think we did that in conjunction with this idea that the focus of the mall property would be that core center. I think we called it the core. And so these areas sort of on the fringe were not seen as quite the same. In fact, the heights are different. I mean, everything sort of was meant, when you look at the conditions, to push everything to the middle, just as a
All right, Adam, does staff have a preferred condition or with respect to the timing of the trail? Does that make sense? Do you think we should consider that? What are your thoughts?
Commissioners, we have worked with the applicant and reviewed their proposed conditions. In the event that there is a desire to have the trail closed, we think the conditions are sufficient to provide for that. We don't have a strong preference of whether the trail is there or not. Doesn't significantly impact our recommendation on this application, given the surrounding roads. I think that we're prepared for implementing either this condition or the one written. I didn't exactly follow the third condition that you're suggesting, but if there was something else that you wanted to consider, we'd certainly work with
Something that would trigger an opening of the trail at a later date.
We can certainly work with that. We have a timing condition in the proposed conditions. There's a timing for when that trail would be constructed, and if we'd like to have a reassessment of whether the need for the trail is there at a future time after it's open and operating, we could certainly work with the applicant and craft a condition to that effect if that is something the board would like to consider.
Okay. Commissioner Wilson.
I just wanted to know who's going to enforce this kind of random, small, special legal jurisdiction now. It can't be their security guards because it's going to be public access, which means it would be the sheriffs. Is that right?
So it would be a private trail with a public access easement. And I think what we had crafted is that we would be allowed to close that down and potentially gate it. I mean, again, it's not our preferred condition. If you're talking about timing, perhaps we say that the trail must be built within 10 years or whatever that time period is. Then we'll know for sure, has that area transitioned, rather than building the trail now and trying to close it and open it. We were trying to come up with options to satisfy the concerns of the Planning Commission for that walkability, but we would hope that in a 10-year period, most of the mall would be redeveloped. So perhaps we have a condition that says within 10 years of the effective date of this PRS, we have to build the trail. And then if at that time period, it's still not safe, we come back. But hopefully that whole area in a decade is going to transition. Then you have that long-term goal of walkability for pedestrians and cyclists, and it can be implemented. Again, that might be a really good compromise solution to balance all the needs that we're talking about.
Yeah. The timing mechanism seems to make sense, especially since they have 12-foot sidewalks right next to it on the other side of the community that can still be traversed by the same people. So the timing mechanism seems to make the most sense. I don't know.
Okay. Commissioner Myers, it's your motion. Do you want to add that as a condition, or do you want to leave your motion the way it is? What are your...
I like to add it, but I like to add it with 5 years instead of 10 years.
Second.
That seems reasonable. Applicant, are you?
Yes, that's acceptable. Thank you.
And Adam, are you okay with that?
Yes, Commissioners, I think what we would propose is that the condition be amended to say no more than 5 years after the effectiveness of the approval of this PRS. I think we have it timed now to have the plans submitted and then the plans constructed. I think what the applicant has offered is a 5-year to have it constructed. So we would say within 5 years of the approval of this PRS, the developer shall be required to complete the multi-use trail. So Commissioner, it was 5 years with approval. I think there's another question now about 5 years after, okay, 5 years after approval. We understand that condition. We can memorialize.
Okay, and then have you reviewed the proposed conditions that were?
Yes, we have. But I think with what I am understanding is that this condition would supersede what's requested here, and we'd be amending the condition that's in the backup.
Okay.
So
we're all on the same page here?
Yes.
Okay. So Commissioner Myers withdrew her initial motion and then made a second motion to approve with the 5-year timing of the trail to be constructed as of approval today. Correct? And that was a second by Commissioner Wostell. All right. No other comments? Please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
All right.
Thank you for so much
Thank you.
time and thought.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Grady, go back to E2.
Yes, Commissioners. Again, the next agenda item then is, again, back to agenda item E2. It's PRS application 23-0972. As noted, this parcel is located on the west side of Kinnan Road, basically at the Pasco County, Hillsborough County line on the west side of Kinnan Road. The request is to modify the site development plan. Here's a close-up of it. Again, the request is to modify the site plan to modify the number and the types of access. With respect to the access, the project currently has 2 accesses onto Kinnan Street. They're going to one centrally located access point, and then they're also adding along the northern boundary a pedestrian golf cart access along the northern to the development that's in Pasco County to the north. They're also going to modifying the internal layout of the project and also committing to the development options. All development options would have an age restriction of 55 plus. The staff is recommending approval and we're available for any questions.
All right, thank you. The applicant here? Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Board. Brian Sykes, Meridian Partners Law, representing the landowner, Anam Vihar LLC. Kind of an unusual request before you. We're actually requesting a reduction in impacts and a reduction in number of units. Why are we here? We're here because we're changing the internal circulation and the external access points for the project. When we looked at the site, determined that there was a better way of developing it than the current option 1 and option 2 that are available under the existing zoning. So we reconfigured the internal circulation, reduced the access points from 2 down to 1 on Kinnan Street. And then we also added a restriction that the project would be developed as a 55-plus community as well. All of these are going to significantly reduce any impacts that this project would have. Under today's existing zoning, could be developed with 143 single-family residential units, 143 attached single-family, i.e. townhome units, or 143 multifamily and townhome units. So you had a couple different options. We're coming in with 111 single-family detached homes, age-restricted, and with a better circulation path, less impacts to the surrounding areas as well. Just as a brief note on this, this was the property that the county last year had designated as surplus land. My client was the prevailing bidder in the sealed bid process last spring, and they closed on the property in June of this past year. The project is located adjacent to an existing project that they developed called Anam Vihar that's located on the Pasco side, literally just above the Hillsborough County, Pasco County line. And we look at this as a continuation of a successful project. So at that, if there's any questions, both the landowner and their representatives, engineering representatives are here, and I'm available for any questions as well.
All right, thank you, sir. Proponent testimony, anyone here in support of this application? Okay, opponent testimony, I think there's over 80 folks have signed up to speak. Just remind you that we have a total of 15 minutes. I do not know if there's a representative or not, but if you can get in line, please just be sensitive to the time. You have a total of 15 minutes. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, board members. and my fellow resident, and I see our developer is also here. Good morning to everybody.
Could you identify yourself for the record, please?
Pardon?
State your name. Identify yourself for the record. Your name.
Name and address,
Oh,
sir.
sorry. I'm coming back now. My name is Umesh Dayal. I am a civil engineer by profession, and I am also in charge of engineering coordinator of Anand Bihar. So I am representing on entire Anand Bihar, and I live on Anand Bihar Drive. So I think this developer has presented many of the case, but one of the aspects has not been presented by him, and we are focusing on that aspect. All other aspects are, we have no objection. We welcome them. So let me go to my slide. Of course, we welcome the new development, and we have certainly liked to have them. But my presentation is only one aspect, not mine, rather for our entire community. That is about the pedestrian trail. He has not mentioned about second modification, has asked for that also. And I will just go to see this plan development. And if you see, there is about 350 to 400 foot wide trail. They call it a golf trail. I don't know why they want it. Earlier, it was supposed to be metal or gravel golf cart of 12 foot wide. But now they have asked for unspecified width and unspecified surface. We don't know what the reason is. First of all, according to Florida DOT, the requirement for the golf cart is 5 to 6 foot, not even 12 foot. And it was already submitted for 12 foot. It means it can be double way for the cart also, golf cart. On top of that, now they have asked for more, not specified how wide they want, why they want to have surface. Now, I go back to that, to our resident. We are almost full of Anand Bihar resident, and they are all here to oppose this trail only. We have got nothing to do with whatever is presented by the developer. Now, earlier in the June, developer tried to have this access of Anand Nilay, which is a new development in Hillsborough County, and he wanted to have access annexer for connecting Anand Nilay to Anand Bihar, and it was outrightly rejected by almost all the residents. Please raise your hand if all rejected. There are quite a few are sitting in on the first floor also, because they could not be accommodated. Now, why we rejected? Reason is very simple. It is a 55 plus community. Most of them are 75 plus, and many of us are 80 plus. I myself is 80 plus, and many of them use the cane, like me, I'm using the cane. Then many of have a wheelchair, walker, and besides that, many of the old persons have a impaired hearing, poor vision, and also stability problem. I myself have a big stability problem. If I'm walking on that trail, if somebody puts the horn on the back, I get bobbled and I like to fall. So that's why I use the cane here. So that kind of residents are there, and the road which has been designed, it is for the single lane, and there is no room for further expansion. There is no walkway or footpath on that, and there is also children and grandchildren visit to their parents, grandparents. They play on the road because there is no other playing facility also. So all this then on comes up safety of the house, safety of the residents there, and about, say, our security. We are a gated community. We have a controlled entrance by the gate. Now, opening this trail will make it unsecured. That certainly we don't want because we have no check on that. And first of all, why this trail is needed? It is a 60-acre property. If they want to make a scenic trail, the whole property is there. Make somewhere else. Why do you want to connect when it was already rejected by almost all the residents? And we again say that it is not desired and we don't want any trail there, first of all. Besides that, what they are asking for modification, that again, from 10 feet to God knows how wide they want. Then we come to developer and builder's concern. Developer has a significant financial interest in building access between the both development. Obviously, the financial interest is not in alignment with the interests of the residents of either community. Developer made many promises in the past, and he has backed out or turned around. For example, we are the resident of Anand Vihar. We have paid all the dues, and we are not allowed even to enter into the facility of the clubhouse. I have paid for the best food plan, and I am not even allowed to enter into the club. Of course, this is a civil case, and it is already, we have filed a case in this Pasco County, so that there are going on, and that is not our concern. These are the legal issues. In the summary, we say we welcome the development, no doubt about that. We have issues with many aspects of the planned development, and that is the trail. And we have already rejected in the past because it threatens our way of living, our security is compromised, our facilities are burdened. It only serves developer self-interest at the expense of the community interest. The proposed trail is nothing but a financial gain for the developer, nothing to do with the interests of the. And we ask why the material specification is being dropped. Why a bit of the specification is being dropped? When you have a 60-acre property trail ending at a roadway of neighboring property. Earlier also, developer wanted to connect Anand Nilay with Anand Vihar. Now that trail ends at the Anand Vihar Drive, and which exactly end up there. Obviously, we think that it is the purpose to bring their potential customers to the clubhouse and provide the facility. Clubhouse is still owned by the developer. The road connecting Anand Vihar Drive to the club and to the gate is still in the hands of the owner of the Anand Vihar. It has not been transferred to HOA. By law, it should be done within 90 days, but it has not been done. And I think probably that will allow him to access to the club house. This is our, our guesses, but we are very right that it is not the case. That's what the intentions are. Otherwise, why somebody will spend $250,000 for making that trail, which leads nowhere? If you want a scenic trail, go somewhere else and make it. You have 60 acres of land. Okay, and then we reject it, and we request Commissioner, please, and all the board members to reject it, that trail at all. We don't need trail. Or any other development, we have no objection. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Suresh Tijoriwal, and I am a resident of Anand Vihar. Anand Vihar is the only community that shares the boundary with the new proposed development. We also share the developer. Anand Vihar itself was developed by the same developer that is going to do this new planned development. I'm here to express the opposition to PR 972, and all of the residents that are sitting here are part of expressing that opinion. We have generally no problem with the way the plans are laid out for the new community. We oppose that one aspect, just one aspect of that development, and we question what is the need for that proposed trail, which started out as a scenic trail, something going through, people to enjoy the scenes and the preserved land and so on and so forth. All of a sudden, it's being converted into a pedestrian and golf trail. Anand Vihar is not a golf course. I'm a golfer. I don't see any 9 holes or even a 3-hole. The idea of golf trail is just so preposterous when the whole community is totally against it. In June of this year, the developer actually planned to annex this property into our property, Anand Vihar itself. That annexation proposal was overwhelmingly rejected. I believe may have been upwards of 70–80% of the voters rejected it. And why did they reject it? The question, why are residents not wanting that? They are not wanting that because of safety concerns, because of security concerns. As Professor Dayal just spoke, most of our residents, I wouldn't say most, but I would put it this way, most of the people who can walk and talk and so on are here. And the people who didn't show up here are the ones which really couldn't walk and talk. They are the ones which are sitting there in the community waiting for the outcome of this hearing. And it does impact the safety of our residents. It concerns the security of our residents. Our residents, many of them use wheelchairs, walkers, canes, and so on. It does increase the traffic because the ultimate goal, there is no question about that. The goal of the developer is to ferry customers from this site to this site. It's not that we are wanting to utilize that ferry. He says, the developer says, we are spending $250,000 for your benefit when we are not looking for that benefit. The benefit accrues to the developer. He wants to ferry his customers between the two sites. I understand he owns that site, this site, and he certainly has a right to develop it the way he wants to. We have no objection to that. But this trail, out of the 60-acre property, to have a 200 feet, 300 feet trail ending right at the mouth of our street, Anand Vihar Drive, is highly questionable. Why is it width of that being removed in the proposal? Why is the material specification being changed in the proposal? Why is that trail now, instead of being called pedestrian trail, is going to be called pedestrian and golf trail, when there is no golfing to be had there? It's just going to crowd our streets. It's going to crowd our parking spaces, limited parking spaces, safety and security, all of those things. His intention was in June. His intention continues to be today. to ferry customers, ferry clients back and forth between his two properties. Without the trail, that takes a 3-4 mile circuitous route, and he's trying to avoid that. There are some legal complaints that our HOA has filed against him, but that's outside of this. And
Thank you, sir.
I urge the commissioner to reject it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Applicant has 5-minute rebuttal.
Be much shorter than that. I guess with this and the last project that was up, it's kind of the tale of two trails. The intention of the trail was nothing more than to be able to provide an interconnectivity between the two projects. My client thought it was a good idea, actually, to be able to provide a pedestrian and golf cart came out from some people like to have golf carts in these communities. But that having been said, we're willing. It's not a requirement. It was not a county imposed requirement. It was literally something we volunteered up, and we're willing to drop it. So, Adam, we're more than happy to take that off as a condition of approval, and we will keep the community strictly on Kinnan Street and no interconnection. No problem with that.
I do have one question for you. Would, if Kennan and Mansfield were connected, would that in any way reduce your interest or desire in making this connection internally? I mean, would that help if that connection was made?
I'll be honest with you, it didn't really matter. I mean, again, there wasn't a financial benefit for the trail. In fact, it was kind of the opposite. It was going to cost, fairly significant amount to.
Folks, I strongly suggest we keep it down. Please continue.
It was going to cost a significant amount to construct it. What was the benefit? This community is going to have its own clubhouse, so it's not, there's no benefit there. Everyone keeps saying there's a financial benefit. There wasn't. So it was merely something saying, hey, let's be able to connect the two communities. Let's have a pedestrian access, walkability. It's going to be a beautiful location. It's going to be going right through a wetland. It'll be a nature trail.
Okay. All right, thank you. Deputy, the next person that you see shout out, please remove them from the room. Thank you. Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Thank you. All right, what's the pleasure of the board? I'm just going to say, and I appreciate the applicant's comments, and someone that's represented this area for a long time. I know all these folks are in Pasco County. I'm not surprised that they oppose this connection, because the reality is the majority of folks that live in Pasco County, not just in this neighborhood but beyond, they have repeatedly opposed the Kennan-Mansfield connection through the years. So they're fearful of any type of connection, whether it's road or pedestrian or golf cart. So I'm not surprised by that. The fact that the applicant has voluntarily offered to remove that, then I appreciate him doing that. But I did want to put that on the record for someone that's fought for probably 18 years to make that connection, because regional connectivity is something we all talk about, yet folks in Pasco have repeatedly refused to support that. So what's the pleasure of the board? Commissioner Owen?
Well, I was just going to have, Adam, if you could clarify now where the applicant is. And I just want to also clarify for the public purposes, this is the applicant bending and going above and beyond here, so the clapping should be for them. Where are we at right now with this particular, you just clarify the applicant's position that we're going to be approving right now?
Yes, it would be the application as presented with the exclusion of condition 25, which provides for the pedestrian and golf cart connection to the north, and condition 17. And we will get a revised site plan that will be certified, that will show the removal of the trail. There's no conditions.
And the applicant's comfortable with that?
Okay, I'm sorry, yes. It's I'm sorry. Yeah. To clarify, it is only condition 25, which requires the pedestrian trail. That condition will be removed. provided this is approved, we'll get a revised site plan from the applicant that will show that new option without the trail, and there'll be no more text on the trail. And that's
Great. And applicant, could you come back up here and just say you're good with that for the record, please? Thanks.
For the record, Brian Sykes representing the landowner. Yes, we are fine with that condition, removing the condition 25.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that motion by Commissioner Meyer, second Commissioner Owen, Commissioner Kemp.
Yeah, I just have a question about it. So as it stands now, or if this is approved, is there still pedestrian, even if it's not paved, is it still pedestrian access through there or bicycle access? Why? Because there's like a wall up or what?
So to be able to address it, there's, out of the 60 plus acres of the site, there's a little over 34 acres that are upland area. And it's kind of dead set in the center. And the property is surrounded by wetlands, environmentally sensitive lands, et cetera. That is the barrier to having an access there. Now, could you come out and go through it? My understanding is there is pedestrian access across from Kinnan to Mansfield. So if people wanted to walk that way, it could be done. There'll be internal circulation, obviously, for the single-family residences, but there would not be any kind of trail or anything going northward.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. No other comments. Please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Grady, we're on the public meeting, limited to ZHM record.
The next item then is agenda item F1. It's major mod application 23-0407. The request is for a major modification existing PD that's located at the northeast corner of Paul's Drive and West Lemston Road in Brandon. The request is for the parcel located in red and primarily along the frontage of Paul's Drive to modify that area, which is currently approved for commercial uses, to allow for 40 multifamily units. Staff is recommending approval, was found consistent with the comp plan, and the hearing officer is also recommending approval, and staff's available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here? Yeah, that's true. All right, let's continue F1. I don't know.
Move to continue.
We'll move that to the last item. Motion to continue, Commissioner Owens and Commissioner Wostel. Please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
All right, F2, is the applicant here? Okay. So staff want to introduce the item?
Commissioners, next item is agenda item F2, rezoning PD 23-0422. The request is to rezone a 2.69 acre parcel from AS1 to planned development. This parcel is located on Morris Bridge Road, east of I-75. Again, the request is rezoned to a planned development to allow for what would be defined as a general indoor-outdoor recreational service, specifically a soccer facility. Staff, based on the surrounding development pattern, did find the request not supportable. Planning Commission also found it inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. Does not meet locational criteria, and the hearing officer also recommended not support. Staff's available for any questions. Thank you.
Is the applicant here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you may go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. Joe Mona Gardner, Brewer Hudson, 400 North Ashley for the record. Commissioners, we're going to hand out some backup conditions that we work with the staff on for implementation and clarification purposes. And at this time, I'd like everyone that is in support of our application, please stand up. We have a pretty significant group that came with us to support this. Commissioners, I won't duplicate the slides that Brian just spoke to, but the applicant's mission is to expand opportunity to access quality soccer fields, to high-level instruction and supervision of soccer, to outreach the sport to underprivileged and disabled, and to provide free clinics as part of that outreach, and also to improve the playing conditions that you see on the left. The applicant's proposing to see also in this slide, what you see on the left, 4 small soccer fields for 5-on-5 soccer play. It's important to know this is not 11 on 11. This is not a regulation soccer facility. These include much smaller fields. To do that, we are requesting the board consider a location criteria waiver. Commissioners, the commercial location criteria is a blunt tool in the comp plan that's used to guide commercial location. Policy 22.7 acknowledges the limitations of a rigid criterion and notes that they're not the only factors to be considered for approval. Also, 22.8 provides the process to consider unique circumstances and that the Board of Commissioners may grant a waiver to the intersection criteria based on the compatibility of the use with the surrounding area. It's also important to know that compatibility is a sensitivity development proposal to maintain the character of an existing development, character of the area, and the characteristics of different uses or activities or design which allow them to be located near or adjacent to each other in harmony. Compatibility does not mean the same as. So projects can be designed to be established to be compatible through site design, scale, mass, and building placement. We believe this project is located, designed, and uniquely positioned to locate in harmony on this site. We have community support, no known objections in this time, and we will maintain the character of the area. The site plan is specifically designed for compatibility. We have abutting property owner support. The project uniquely is located in that the design compatibility is further complemented by the physical off-site features. Each property line includes a unique set of circumstances which will establish compatibility. The application also includes operational and design conditions which are above LDC requirements in some cases, and the operations are uniquely configured to provide an opportunity to youth, adults, the disadvantaged, in a high-quality, well-coached, and well-supervised play space. We believe this provides a high-benefit, low-impact project for the community. Moving on to the site layout, the play fields have been, which are the most active areas of the site, are located along the eastern half. We've located the less active area, which is the parking to the west, and a small concession area is located internal to the site. It's important in moving the soccer field to the east that you know that Mr. Tatum, who is the abutting property owner, Mr. Tatum, can you stand up, please? Well, everybody's standing up, but Mr. Tatum's in that group somewhere. Mr. Tatum has provided a letter, and he will be speaking to that letter to note that he lives right next to the play fields, which are the most active area. He believes the site design provides the compatibility, the neighborhood benefit, and he is in support of this rezoning. Moving forward in terms of compatibility, to speak about the scale, mass, and bulk, the floor area ratio allowed by the comp plan is 0.25. What's proposed in this proposal is a 0.02, a very low-level activity, especially relative to what the plan allows in the max. And it's important to note again that we are a 5-on-5, not 11 on 11. There's also operational restrictions that we've imposed on our application. We're restricting or prohibiting amplified sound. Field lighting is being conditioned to a higher standard that's in the LDC and a higher standard that would be allowed in a public park. We have a higher level of screening than required by the LDC. We have full compliance with LDC design measures for compatibility and no waivers are sought. The design also includes, as required by the code, internal perimeter landscaping as well as external landscaping. And the site plan conditions of the PD provide the predictability and reliability that the board desires for these types of cases. Moving to each property line, the adjacent features on the north include Morris Bridge Road, which is a 2-lane arterial which provides separation from the site, to the mobile home park, which is located to the north, which is a rather high-density mobile home park. We provided the screening along that standard to include 1 street tree for every 40 feet of frontage, 1 canopy tree for every 50 feet of frontage, and we also are providing a 6-foot-high hedge planted in the area between the trees, which exceeds the LDC screening requirements for this perimeter. In terms of the east, south, and west perimeter, each one of those will have a 6-foot opaque fence, a 20-foot buffer, shade trees that are 10 feet high, 20 feet apart, plants and ground cover for the balance of the buffer. To speak to those perimeters, looking to the west, the adjacent off-site features and uses include significant mature trees, which will add to the vertical screen and virtually screen all the uses in that direction from the application of this area. That area of the site, off-site, includes scattered RVs, abandoned vehicles, a barn, and there's also a home west of the tree that will be completely screened between the use of our screening and what's already there with the trees. Looking to the south, there's a power corridor, a Swiftma property. That area will never be developed. So we believe that area is fully compatible. In terms of the east, we've already mentioned that we have the homeowner support in that area. That's the most active area of the site. No compatibility issues there. So we believe each perimeter is compatible. All the areas have been covered on each one of those perimeters to the point where there is no compatibility issues. So we believe, as we said before, the project is located, designed, uniquely positioned to be located in harmony on the site. We believe it will maintain the community character of the area, will be compatible with the area, will provide positive investment and opportunity to the area, has community support and no known opposition. We have a lot of support for this, and we would hope that you would find it in your heart to support it. We also have Coach Silva, who'd like to speak as well. Thank you, and we'll be available for questions.
All right, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Christian Silva. I am the applicant for the rezoning RZPD 23-0422. I'm also the founder of Silva Academy. Providing a safe and nurturing environment geared towards development to players in the same county that I grew up in is something I cherish greatly. It comes with tremendous challenges, however. It is extremely difficult to find fields to use within the Hillsborough County area. The county has done a magnificent job building fields, but these are restricted as most are tied down by large-scale soccer clubs or organizations. Soccer clubs within the county are typically chained up or locked most of the day, and when they do open, it is strictly for the usage of these massive soccer clubs and organizations that operate these fields. Whether it be a parent and child, an individual looking to kick around by themselves, a young player looking to receive coaching and instruction, or a small group looking to get a small pickup game going. One is not simply able to use a field for leisure, recreation, or instruction without being immediately kicked off. This for us represents not simply an establishment or a business, but a dream. A dream as a small business owner, and a way to have something we've built from the ground up become a home for the players you see here today. A way to give back through sport, to make soccer accessible to the underprivileged and disabled through our programs offered, but most importantly, a way to leave a positive impact in the community of Hillsborough County. We just ask that you consider our project. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Proponent testimony? Anyone want to speak on behalf? Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Hadi Mansour, and I live at 9214 Knights Branch Street, 33637. I chose to stand in front of you today because I want to share the tremendous amount of benefits and influence that Silva Academy has offered me on the personal and athletic levels. Coach Silva not only focuses on our development as elite soccer players, but he also focuses on our mental and emotional growth. With it, I found a coach, mentor, and a role model. He taught me to show patience and dedication both on and off the field. As a homeschool student, Silva Academy offers me the opportunity to meet new kids and the flexibility to train anytime during the day. My dream is to play with the USA national team, and for that I have to work very hard, but also I will need a committed place like Silva Academy to help nurture my skills and guide me through this journey. I want to kindly ask you to approve this project so me and many kids in Silva Academy can continue to make our dreams come true. Thank you for your listening and consideration.
Nice job, young man. Anyone else want to try and follow that? Good luck, sir.
Good morning. My name is Ravi Chitani, and my family lives at 1108 Abbeys Way in Tampa. My son Samir plays on Coach Silva's select team. I'm here today to lend my support for the rezoning of PD 23-0422. Hillsborough County lands for long use, like what Coach Silva is proposing. Whatever little public field space that exists isn't truly public. In most cases, public fields funded by taxpayers, like all of us, are rented out to large soccer clubs or private for-profit entities that make access impossible. Even on the outfield of a baseball diamond, Coach Silva has been able to create an amazing environment for young players that have ambitions of playing the game at a very high level. I can only imagine what he will be able to do to help our kids and our community if you vote yes on this rezoning and Silva Academy finally has a place to call home. On a personal level, recently, my son was selected to be part of a youth national team pool. This is among the highest honors for any youth players in the country. Coach Silva was instrumental in that selection, working with him day in and day out to improve his game and making him the player he is today. For my son and for all these kids wanting to live out their dreams, I humbly ask you to vote yes on this rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in support?
Good morning. Christina Mattasini. My address is 3214 West Bay Villa Avenue in Tampa, Florida. I'm here in front of you this morning as just one of the many voices in the sea of red behind me, boys who have a passion for football, or otherwise known as soccer, and who have a mentor in Christian Silva and his academy. What this academy has done for our boys' passion and skill in football is unprecedented. I say this with confidence because my own son is standing behind me wearing a Silva Academy logo on his chest. I have watched him grow and develop exponentially in skill and confidence over the past couple years that he's trained and been a part of the Silva Academy, as have each one of these boys behind me. This man, their coach, his academy, have given these boys an opportunity of a lifetime. At such a young age, they have been able to live and experience what it's like to pursue their dreams and goals at a high level. They are competing against the top teams throughout the state of Florida. They have traveled to Spain, where they played against Spain's elite football leagues. They are putting in work every day in addition to going to school and earning top grades. They are led by a passionate and driven coach who has provided opportunities far beyond what any other club has offered them. But what they need is a home. They need a proper field to train and develop. And that is why we are here. That is why the boys are here, to show you how much a proper training facility would benefit them and the community. These boys currently train at a park that has more dirt and sand spurs than field and grass. They have nowhere else to go. There just aren't facilities in and around Hillsborough County where these boys can train. They need a real field to practice on, where balls do not bounce wayward and ankles do not get sprained because of the pits in the ground and the poor field conditions. These boys are competing at the highest level of soccer in our state, and they deserve a proper field and a home. We respectfully request that you approve the application before you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Good morning, sir.
Yes, my name is James Tatum, and I own the property adjacent to this project. I currently live in 2810 Barrett Avenue in Plant City, Florida. And I would just like to bring up one or 2 points that I think are important for this zoning decision. The zoning board, in my opinion, exists to improve the lifestyles of the people in our community. Currently today, if you look at this area, I would not call this a brilliant shining star for our county. It's an impoverished area. Children are living in the trailer parks across the street, and they have, fighting every day against the drugs and the drug dens in the area. And these are the children that I think we have the ability to reach. Not just the students here, but through the outreach programs in this community, which are dearly needed here. It's an opportunity to step up, improve the area, and provide a lot of support for the needy, impoverished children in this area. And that's what I think this project would do. That's why I originally sold this piece of property to the applicant, because that's what they wanted to do. A little bit about my background. I'm sort of a developer. I've developed some charter schools in the Plant City area. I've developed some senior living facilities, and I've also done some low-income housing projects. My wife tends to refer to me as the George Bailey of Plant City sometimes, because of my efforts to improve the lifestyles of the people in our community, which I think this project will do for the people that live in that area, that can benefit from these programs that this school is going to provide. I appreciate you listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? All right, anyone here in opposition? Okay, Planning Commission?
Thank you. For the record, Melissa Leinhardt, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the residential 6 future land use category. It is in the rural area and not located within the limits of a community plan. The rural area is intended for long-term agricultural uses and large lot, low-density rural residential uses that can exist without the threat of urban or suburban encroachment. The residential 6 future land use category is intended for residential development, suburban scale neighborhood commercial and office uses. The area mainly consists of residential uses and more specifically large lot single-family residential located both to the east and the west of the subject property. The nature of the proposed development and its operating characteristics are more intense in nature and will not allow the area to remain rural in nature. The proposed rezoning does not meet the intent of future land use element objective 16 and its accompanying policies related to neighborhood protection. Although the proposal includes 20-foot setbacks with type B screening and a stormwater retention area on the south side of the site, the proposed use has operating characteristics that could be disruptive to the rural character of the area. The site is 2.69 acres and only approximately 250 feet wide, and the relatively small and narrow character of the parcel would not allow for a gradual transition in intensity between those single-family uses located directly east and west of the subject property. The site does not meet commercial locational criteria in accordance with Objective 22 of the future land use element, and the applicant has submitted a waiver request for review. Although the applicant has proposed some mitigative measures for the proposed use due to the rural nature of the area and the operating characteristics of the use, Planning Commission staff cannot identify any unique circumstances to recommend waiving commercial locational criteria. The physical nature of the site is almost identical to those directly to the east and west, which are developed with single-family residences. Therefore, Planning Commission staff recommends that the Board of County Commissioners not grant a waiver to commercial locational criteria. Objective 12-1 and Policy 12-1.4 of the Community Design Component discuss how new development should be compatible with the established character of the surrounding area. The applicant has taken measures with site planning techniques to address some of the elements outlined in the compatibility policies. However, the development pattern and character of the area is mainly residential and agricultural. The proposed soccer facility presents potential challenges with pedestrian and vehicular traffic, parking impacts, noise, and lighting. And based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning inconsistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered the applicant's request to rezone 2.69 acres from AS1 to plan development to develop 4 non-regulation soccer fields with a 2,000 square foot concession stand, restroom, and storage structure, along with bleachers and a parking area. Testimony in support was presented at the ZHM hearing and submitted into the record, providing support by parents and children for the applicant and his existing soccer training academy. The zoning hearing master found that the rectangular shape of the property, combined with the needed improvements for the soccer facility, does not provide sufficient area for additional open space and buffering and screening that could mitigate the potential negative effects of the facility to the surrounding area. The zoning hearing master stated that while it is clear that the applicant has established a successful soccer academy supported by parents and children, the land use impacts of the 4 soccer fields and associated improvements are more intense than these surrounding land uses and development pattern in the area. The zoning hearing master concluded with a recommendation of denial of the PD rezoning.
All right, thank you. Going to board discussion, Commissioner Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In planning, Melissa, you had mentioned that they'd taken mitigating measures, and then when I just hear from the ZHM that there's buffering issues, can you clarify what those mitigating measures were that they've taken? I'd just like to clarify that for the board purposes.
Sure, thank you very much. If you don't mind, I'm going to consult the staff report really quickly,
Okay.
and I'll get right back to you.
Okay. And then, typically, when it pulls a trifecta like this, I'm a pretty tough one to get an approval on, but this kind of is a little bit different to me because, my issues, and I'm certainly understanding of the ag community. I represent most of the ag community in Hillsborough County. But this is a little different. We're talking about a soccer and recreational field versus any type of high density residential living or commercial that would be something like a strip mall or something like this. We're talking about a soccer field. So Mr. Gormley, the traffic impacts on this, I guess, are there issues with unimproved roads in this particular area? Because this doesn't look like it's going to bring we're talking about 4 soccer fields, correct? We're not talking about a huge, something comparable to, let's say, Waterset, for example.
That's correct. And our non-support was based on the design and compatibility of the site. However, from the transportation traffic side, we did not have a concern with it, given that the applicant is proposing to limit the attendance on site at any one time to no more than 160 people. With that limitation, we were comfortable that it was not going to have an adverse traffic impact.
Okay, and has there been opposition to this from, I know the gentleman here that's abutting property is for it, obviously. Has there been opposition on this?
Not that we're aware of. This.
Okay, and let's talk about the compatibility too, because I certainly always bring up when we're talking about zoning that, okay, well, if we approve this, what would this lead to in the future for another applicant being able to, bring in some type of density that we really would be in opposition to? Because I don't think anyone on this board is in opposition to soccer fields and providing opportunities for these young men and women to develop into soccer players. What would this mean? Would this mean that if we approve this, that this could bring in some higher density on residential or commercial? Could you just allude to that briefly?
Yes, Commissioner. So the residential limitations on this are established by the comprehensive plan that has the area as Res 6. So whatever density might be considered there, I don't believe would be affected by this application. The applicant is requesting a waiver of the locational criteria, and if the board were inclined to approve this, I would suggest making the nature of the use and of lower impact nature of the use a reason for finding it compatible and warranting a waiver of locational criteria. In doing so, it would make this decision kind of unique and singular to this proposed use, and not open up the area necessarily for other types of more intensive commercial uses. So the waiver of the locational criteria would be, that what would be different about this, but I think, if the board was inclined, making that specific to the outdoor recreational type use of this would be a way to protect future decisions so they could be reviewed on their own merits without this being a driver for those decisions.
Very good. Ms. Leinhardt, you got that information? Go ahead.
I do, sir. Thank you. What I was referencing is what is in the Planning Commission staff report, which references the waiver request submitted by the applicant. And they describe that the proposed soccer facility is significantly smaller than the traditional soccer facility as they presented, and that it goes on to describe that the request includes screening with a 6-foot opaque fence, trees, specialized lighting to minimize light spilling into adjacent properties, and that there will be no use of public announcement systems or a PA system for the amplification of sound. Now, whether that's in a proposed condition of approval, I would pass that to Mr. Gormley to address. Thank you.
Could you address that, Mr. Gormley, real quick?
Commissioner, the applicant's proposed conditions include a prohibition on amplification for music or announcement. So there would be no amplified sound permitted for the site.
Good. Well, I'll sit back and listen to my other colleagues here, but seeing as that the compatibility concerns are really answered, I think that we're not creating a future hornet's nest with future development here, and seeing the mitigating factors that they've put forward and the size of the impact on this, I'm inclined to support it, and we also have to find a way to beat Argentina and Brazil in the future, and these are the future people to do it. So I'm inclined to support it, but I'll sit back and listen to my fellow colleagues. Thank you.
Commissioner Wostel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One thing that was important to me, especially as we as a board are reviewing and improving things going forward, is there was a lot of community support, but I dug through all of them that I could find, and Mr. Gormley or Ms. Leinhardt could correct me, they're more familiar. I couldn't find one person that's actually an affected party within those letters of support. Does that sound, I mean, I couldn't find one even the people that testified today, one, it was Harbor Island, one is South Tampa, the closest I heard was Temple Terrace. Was there actually any outcry of support from affected parties within the, even the one affected party that we did hear support, we heard testimony today that he supports it, but he's also the person that sold the property, so naturally he supports what development is going to go on to it.
So, Commissioner, in the support correspondence we've seen, and based on the address listed, it doesn't appear that any of those people who have memorialized their support to us live in this immediate area.
Okay. Yeah, I think that that's a really important thing to point out as we're looking forward as expansion goes out into these areas. We continue to how we're going to evaluate fairly of essentially ignoring the rules that are in place. Is, you know, the item before, the people that were here in opposition were all directly affected parties, and I understand because of freedom of speech we can't restrict somebody from adding their input, but I will say though, to the applicant's point, my son actually plays on one of those alleged large soccer organizations. I actually took pictures of some of the yard signs stuck in the middle of the fields on Saturday that he was referring to that are pretty aggressive signs. I have a problem with them, frankly. I thought it coincidental that he brought them up, where we don't seem to really afford an opportunity for just basic recreational soccer. Yeah, I don't really have much an opinion, I guess, on it. It doesn't seem like, I feel like the community at large that's directly affected likely doesn't know that this is happening right now, which is something that we can't force people to participate. I understand that, but we had one recently that I feel like if they knew that this was going on, that they'd be here. So I don't know. I don't know that I even like commercial locational criteria as a whole, so. But I did want to point that out about all of the letters of support that we received. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Cohen, then Myers, and then I'm going to make a couple comments. Commissioner Cohen.
You know, I think that your point is a valid one, Commissioner Wostel, but I do think what weighs against it is that we don't have any opposition, and it's possible people don't know, but I will tell you, just based on the last one that we have, and generally what we see around here, when people feel strongly about something that's going in their backyard, generally there is some hue and cry about it, and we do, I think, have to depend on the notice that is given, and certainly if there was contiguous neighborhood opposition, that would be something that would be very important for us to take into consideration. But in my view, without that, this is really a need. There really are kids that are not able to access playing fields. And I think that this is a creative land use that is going to provide some of that needed space. So I'm comfortable supporting it, and I think it's a good idea.
Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm looking at this as a case-by-case basis. This is unique, that when we can have our future leaders, our youth, want to be involved in our community. Sometimes we don't have enough space for them to enjoy life, activities. Today we have a group before us that want a soccer field in their community. And I don't go against staff. We have a trifecta, everybody saying no, no, no. But I'm going to ask staff, let's find a way to make this happen, that they can work within the guidelines to make this happen for our youth. They are our future leaders. They're not coming here today asking for trouble. They want to be involved in their community. And this is what we look for our youth to be about, so we don't have what I have in my community today, the gun violence, the fighting, and all of that. They want to play and get tired and then go home and go to sleep. Okay? And that makes a huge difference in the community when we can help our young people. Okay? So I'm asking staff to go back and look at this and find a way to work with this item, F2, to make this happen so we can approve this item. So I'm in support of it. I'm looking at it as a case-by-case basis. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda, then I'm going to make a couple comments. Commissioner.
Yes, like the gentleman that was speaking today, there's trailers there with people with drug issues and everything. This is a great opportunity to have something for the children that live in that area. You know, I believe it's a great opportunity. I definitely support it, and I was going to make a move for approval for it.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve. Commissioner Cameron Cepeda, second. Commissioner Woelstel, and I'll just make a couple of comments. I represented this area for a very long time, and I used to live just a couple miles north of there in Cross Creek in New Tampa, and I would drive this way several times a day. And I can tell you, in my opinion, this is one of those rare instances where the proposal, the plan proposal, and the actual environment of the property tell a different story than what our policies and codes say. As was mentioned here today, we do have a lack of fields: baseball, softball, soccer, across the board. Yes, we have use agreements with leagues that use the fields the majority of the time, not exclusively, not 100% of the time, but it does make it challenging for other folks to use the fields when they're not being utilized by leagues. And I've run into that myself with my daughter playing softball. Go to a field and the field's locked and can't get on. And nothing infuriates me more than that, I can tell you. But and the thing is, we frequently deny or do not allow for-profit organizations to utilize our complexes because of the lack of availability. And this is a situation where they're not asking to use our fields, they're asking to build their own. And so I think that needs to be recognized. There is, widespread support in here. There's significant existing buffers that will remain, and there's additional screening. And lastly, the applicant used terms that we're familiar with here as far as improving the community character of the area, being compatible with the area. And I'm just going to put it in layman's terms. In my opinion, it's going to improve the area. So I wholeheartedly support this. And Adam, just to make sure that we're clear on the motion, you want that to include the waiver of the locational criteria to be based on the low-level activity, the nature of the use being outdoor recreational use, to be the basis for the waiving locational criteria.
Yes, sir. That will be helpful for the record. Yes,
okay.
Thank you.
You're good with that, Commissioner Cameron Cepeda? Yes. Okay. So again, motion to approve. Commissioner Cameron Cepeda, second. Commissioner Woelstel. Any other comments? If not, please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
The next item, Commissioners, agenda item F3, rezoning standard 23-0443. This is...
And you guys can take the remainder of the day off and celebrate. Okay? You don't have to go back to school.
Someone's glasses?
This is a parcel at the southwest corner of the intersection of Racetrack Road and Gun Highway. The request is to rezone the 2.32 acre parcel from RSC2 to commercial neighborhood with restrictions. The restrictions are use restrictions limiting the use to ag stand, various professional office type uses, and one retail use limited to Western wear. Staff found this request not supportable. That's not, Michelle, that's not the site plan, sorry. Staff found this request not supportable. From development services standpoint, we were overall concerned with the intensity of development in comparison to similar projects that were approved outside of the identified activity center within the Keystone Odessa Community Plan. We also had an issue with the retail proposed use, in particular, really from an enforcement standpoint of how you ensure and limit it to Western wear, which is the proposed use. So based on that, staff did not find it supportable. Planning Commission found it inconsistent with the Keystone Odessa Community Plan and overall the comprehensive plan, and the hearing officer also did not support it. Staff's available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Applicant here? Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451, St. Petersburg. I'm here today with Ariel Quintella, and he'll be up in just a minute. This is RZ 221431, 2.13 acres. We are located in the Odessa Keystone area at the Gun and Racetrack Roads, as the property appraiser has it at the intersection. Issue is RSC2 to CNR. We've severely restricted the uses to just be these several uses: agricultural stand, general business, restricted to Western wear, animal hospital, vet clinic, health practitioner's office, or medical clinics, professional offices. Development Services indicates the site consists of single-family, residential, agricultural, institutional, and commercial. The determination of this request, the real premise, Commissioners, is that this particular corner is not conducive or appropriate for residential anymore. Commercial general, on the other hand, was too intensive, so we determined CN was a good fit with the many restrictions that we've proposed. Critically, an important finding is that we do meet locational criteria per the comprehensive plan. That means that it is implemented to a scale commercial development consistent with the character that provides appropriate neighborhood serving commercial development, square footage controls, and it is in a sense consistent with character of the surrounding areas and accessibility of the site as indicated on the comprehensive plan. So this is the intersection on the street level, a racetrack and Gun Highway. It is a significant intersection. Gun Highway is carrying 19,500 vehicles per day, and racetrack is carrying 13,438 vehicles per day. It's a very intense little corner in this part of the county. A couple photos and a couple videos which were taken at the busiest part of the day. There's just a lot of noise, a lot of activity, as you can see. Under the zoning map, you see the sites on the corner. CN zoning is located very close by in an OR. There's been some discussion, which I think is a critical finding by the zoning hearing master, to not consider the CN or the OR. We think that is a very bad finding, only because it existed before the Keystone Odessa plan. But the zoning is zoning, it's there, it's been there, and that was indicative of many, many years ago of the intensity of this particular intersection. Commercial neighborhood is designed for limited retail uses, supply the daily rental or retail and service needs of the neighborhood, which is exactly the uses that we've restricted to, and will not set a precedent for the introduction of inappropriate uses into an area. That's an important element of the CN zoning. Again, not a precedent for introduction of inappropriate uses into an area. Additionally, there would continue to be a dense, high natural forestation that will remain under the required 20-foot B. On both sides where there is residential. Now, a good example of how this works is Fox's Corner to the north. Fox's Corner is expressly allowed or permitted to have this use under the Keystone Odessa plan, which is located about a mile north. But it's very similar. It's on a major intersection, a lit intersection, has CN uses, and it works really well. It's well used. It provides daily needs, which again is about a mile north of this site. And again, and that is Zone CN. When you look at the Keystone Odessa Community Plan, it does note desired rural commercial character or small in scale, which this would be. It would be very small in scale. And desires to have use that are geared to serving the daily needs of area residents, which this would be, again, in a scale design that complements the character of the community. Also of our consideration is that the roadway is really the main arterial north-south in that part of the county. So that's why it carries so much traffic. That's why it is a very busy arterial road. Of course, you have the veterans as well, but in terms of the arterial roadway, it is a major roadway carrier. We do believe that, with great respect to the staffs, that they have not considered, and we think this is an important finding, have not considered the growing intensity and activity on this pivotal intersection and the southern area and the impacts that then occur because of the growth of the county in that area. The Keystone Odessa Plan was approved in 2001, 22 years ago, and clearly there's been a lot of changes, particularly in the southern area, as it encroaches and is part of this intersection. The area's changed, the rural area's changed, population has increased. So designating the same areas as rural, we feel, do not fit the realistic picture of this site. So again, back to the determination of the zoning request is that it's not conducive or appropriate for residential. It's just not. I don't know, it would be a very impacting and intrusive site for residential. The commercial general is too high, so we fashioned a little bit of a custom category for the application before you. Meets comprehensive plan location criteria. There's similar zoning right across the street, and we believe that the growth in the area has not been considered well. Mr. Chairman, I do have 3 very quick videos which were done again at a busier time, at the rush hour time, just to give you a little better feel. If we can run those, please.
Excuse me, Mr. Pressman, were these videos shown at ZHM?
Yes, they were.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners, again. This is a site that was our premise from the beginning, is what is best use here. And we just feel that because of the many circumstances and presentation, that residential is not the best, and that we've created a good custom category. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone here in support?
Ariel's here who will speak for it. There are just a couple of minutes left there.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ariel Quintella. I reside at 9511 Aqua Lane in Odessa. I've been living in Odessa for over 20 years. I've developed in that area. I've built homes in that area. So I understand the location. I understand, the thought process in there and what people definitely, why they move out there. When we started, I reached out to the Keystone Civic Association, and I met with them several times, and I found them to be very cordial. I have people that came up to me during the meeting saying that they do support the project. Of course, the Keystone Civic Association as a whole did not, but the community is quite large, and there are people who are very in favor of this project, and I have letters to attest to that. And so when I look at projects, I say, how can I make a difference, and what does this area need? Because it needs to be a win-win. So, I would say hundreds of homes have been built in that area within the last 20 years. And yet, the business, the community does need professional offices. It needs doctors. It needs attorneys. It needs uses for the community that's a win-win. When you look at that particular lot, it's located on such a busy corner. that it's a dangerous corner. And when you look at the community plan on page 19, one of the things it says is livability and safety. And that lot doesn't constitute livability and safety. Now, others surmise, well, there's other houses being built on Gun Highway. That's fine. You know, we all have our own, reasons to build and develop, but they're not on the corner. This is such a unique corner. And so some might say, well, you're setting a precedent. Well, it's the only corner in that whole area that can be really used for this site. Also on page 23, it talks about the ZN zoning, and it talks about the uses and the specific design guidelines that you would use on a commercial zoning. So they do require that it's appropriate for the area, that it looks right, that the external wood, siding, and so forth meets the area, but they do really would like equestrian, and they do want agricultural. But when you look at that parcel, it's not large enough for agricultural, it's not large enough for equestrian, so it's a small site that even though the desire is equestrian and agricultural, it doesn't make sense. It's not right for that small lot. So they're basically, it becomes a property rights issue as well, because they don't, they're saying residential, but it really is kind of a dangerous site for residential. So what I'm looking for is a win-win for both areas in there. And some might say, well, there's vacancies in the area, but like any other district, there's always vacancies and there's always new construction and so forth. So I do believe that the need for a small development of professional offices for the community is needed out there, considering the growth that we've had. I have been very respectful of the area, and when we look at this, we don't take it for granted as to what we believe will be the right thing for the community. And I believe that we do have nice support for it. And so that's our quest, is to build a small professional site there for the community. So I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Anyone in support? Okay, those in opposition? You have a total of 10 minutes. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name's Elizabeth White. I live in Keystone. I'm here in opposition to the rezoning of 230443. Since I gave a presentation at the October 16th land use hearing, I'm not going to duplicate that presentation, but rather give you a brief overview. The owner states they determine the zoning request since the site is not conducive or appropriate for residential. This is simply the owner's opinion, and over 80 letters of opposition state otherwise. A rezoning to commercial is not compatible with the neighboring properties which are zoned residential or agricultural. The subject site does not meet the intent of the Keystone Odessa Community Plan, and while the owner feels our comp plan is outdated and no longer applies, it is quite obvious that the residents of Keystone disagree and are willing to fight for our community. The Planning Commission recommendation shows the zoning to be inconsistent. Development Services shows the zoning is not supportable, and as indicated by the findings of fact and conclusions of law, the land use hearing officer recommends denial. Please deny the zoning request. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning.
Melissa Nordbeck, 6008 Hammock Woods Drive, Odessa. This has been before you several times in several different formats. Every single time it's been ruled inconsistent and not supportable, and now we have a denial from the zoning hearing master. The presentation earlier was that this is such a unique corner. and that there had so many problems, yet he, in July, purchased an adjacent lot. So if he's claiming it's not residential, I can't do residential, and has now purchased an adjacent lot that also fronts Gun Highway, we can only assume that we'll be seeing more rezoning for this corner. The white fence in the video is a 100-acre horse farm across the street, which is also down the street from our feed store. So to say this area still isn't rural, I'm not really sure where he's getting that opinion from. Again, this has been denied repeatedly. Please continue that trend. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning. Nancy Padaraki, 18128 Gun Highway, Odessa, Florida. I've been living there for decades. Gun Highway is busy. This intersection is busy. And by their own testimony this morning, it's a dangerous corner. So what should we do? Let's invite more cars into this intersection. Cars that will be coming from the north and south on Gun Highway and will only be able to enter by turning onto the eastbound lane of Racetrack Road. That will mean at this intersection where there are 2 turn lanes both directions, someone will have to cross 4 lanes of traffic to access this property, or go down the road to the rotary, which gets congested, come back around, and go back into the property, adding approximately 1.2 miles to every commute. That doesn't make sense to me. Now, when you're leaving, you can easily leave by turning right onto Gun Highway and traveling south, going back down into a more congested area, doing a U-turn and coming back up. So I would say the traffic patterns would make this an even more dangerous corner if you have more cars coming into this area. Additionally, if you were to look at the exhibits from the hearing back in October, you will see that this property sits very low from Racetrack and Gun Highway. So hundreds of yards of dirt will have to be brought in to build this property up. This is an environmentally sensitive area. This property sits within 500 feet of a public portable well. So I would plead, do not allow this property to become commercial. Don't invite more cars into this community. Do not invite more hazards to the environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Trish Lawton. I live at 8310 Jana Drive, Odessa, Florida. I am a board member of the Keystone Civic Association. The members of the Keystone Civic Association voted unanimously to oppose this application. And so I would just like to make that known that I attended the meetings with Ariel, and we were not in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in opposition?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Regina Hernandez. I live at 8703 Lake Com Lane, Odessa, Florida, for 39 years. The reason people are living in this area is because it is a rural area lifestyle and access to wildlife. I am asking you to slow the commercial growth in Keystone. Who says we need doctorate offices and more commercial space? I'm not saying that, nor are my neighbors, who have lived there almost as long as I have. If we continue to allow growth, development in Keystone, we will be another Del Mabry or US Highway 41. I am asking you to please not approve this request. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in opposition? But if not, applicant has a 5-minute rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, thank you, commissioners, and for the citizens who are here today. I was able to catch a couple of addresses of the nice ladies who spoke, and their homes are in very secluded, off Main Road, very quiet, very clearly residential properties. And that's wonderful. And that's what a lot of Keystone is. But when you have 30,000 vehicles a day on a typical day passing a site just a few feet from your property, that's not what Keystone and Odessa typically are. As Ariel said, this is a very unique and singular corner in the area, and that's what separates this from a lot of the comments and concerns that you've heard. I would simply say to you, if you had this application and had to evaluate what you think is the best and most appropriate, we came to the conclusion of a severely restricted and severely held back zoning category, pulling a lot of intensive uses off of the request. We don't believe that the site will generate more traffic because specifically the CN and this location is to serve, very specifically on the comp plan and the KO plan, is to serve local needs. It's to serve local residents. It's not going to pull from Carrollwood. It's not going to pull from South Tampa. It's going to serve the needs of the folks in this area. So with that, we ask your consideration, and we appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Planning Commission.
Thank you for the record, Melissa Leinhard, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the Residential 1 future land use category. It is in the rural area and it is also located within the limits of the Keystone Odessa Community Plan. The rural area is intended for long-term agricultural uses and large lot, low-density rural residential uses, which can exist without the threat of urban or suburban encroachment. The applicant submitted a list of restricted uses that include health practitioners' offices, medical offices, professional services, and clinics with emergency services. These restricted uses are not consistent with the rural character intended for the rural area and would allow for suburban and urban encroachment. Therefore, the proposal is inconsistent with Objective 4 of the future land use element. The proposed rezoning does not meet the intent of future land use element Objective 16 and its associated policies related to neighborhood protection. The subject site is surrounded by single-family residential dwellings and vacant residential land. There is also a church located to the northwest of the subject site that is zoned commercial neighborhood, or CN. It serves as a residential support use within a residential area and is compatible with the surrounding area. The proposed rezoning would allow for adverse impacts on the established neighborhood that's adjacent to the subject site and is therefore inconsistent with this policy direction. According to future land use element Objective 22 and Policy 22.2, the subject site does meet locational criteria and would limit commercial development to 20,000 square feet. It is within the required 660 feet from the closest qualifying intersection of Gun Highway and Racetrack Road. Although the site does meet commercial locational criteria, future land use element Policy 22.7 asserts that locational criteria are not the only factors to be used when determining the approval of a proposed use. Considerations involving land use compatibility, adequacy, and availability of public services, those are some of the factors that carry more weight than the locational criteria in the approval of a potential neighborhood commercial use. The proposed office and medical clinic restrictions would still allow for a range of incompatible commercial uses directly adjacent to single-family residences. Similarly, the applicant has not submitted any mitigation measures beyond use restrictions to help remedy any adverse impacts. The proposed rezoning is therefore inconsistent with the aforementioned policy. The Keystone Odessa Community Plan emphasizes the desire for rural commercial uses outside of the Rural Activity Center to be specifically geared towards serving the agriculture and equestrian interests of the area. The subject site is located outside of the Rural Activity Center, which is at the intersection of Gun Highway and North Mobley Road, and the applicant's proposed office and medical uses are inconsistent with the rural commercial character outlined in the community plan vision. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning inconsistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered the applicant's request for rezoning to the commercial neighborhood restricted zoning district. Excuse me. The property is 2.32 acres in size and is currently zoned RSC2 designated residential 1 by the comprehensive plan. The parcel is located within the rural service area and the Keystone Odessa community plan. As Ms. Leinhard explained, the Planning Commission staff does not support the request, and additionally, the Development Services Department has filed recommendation of non-support. Testimony in opposition was provided at the ZHM hearing, with over 80 letters in opposition also filed into the county's record. The testimony focused on the incompatibility of the proposed commercial neighborhood restricted zoning with the existing agricultural and residential uses in the area. Concerns were also expressed regarding the impact of the traffic on the adjacent roadways and inconsistency with the Keystone Odessa Community Plan. The zoning hearing master found that the Keystone Odessa Community Plan specifically states rural commercial uses outside the rural activity center specifically should be geared towards serving the agricultural and equestrian interest in the area. The proposed restricted land uses are not specifically geared towards agricultural and equestrian interests, as they include a wide range of office, including medical, to serve the general public. The zoning hearing master emphasized that the applicant's proposed restriction to limit retail to Western wear clothing only presents significant enforceability issues for the county, thereby making that restriction not viable. The ZHM found that the request for the CNR rezoning is inconsistent with the development pattern in the surrounding area, inconsistent with the Keystone Odessa Community Plan and overall comprehensive plan, and recommended denial.
All right, what's the pleasure of the board? Well, I'll just say, since it's in my district, I'm sympathetic to the applicant's concerns, makes excellent points. However, I can't get there. It's incompatible with the Keystone Community Plan. It's well outside of the established commercial nodes along Gunn. There are enforceability issues with the request as staff identified, and there's significant opposition. So I'm not going to be able to support it. Any other comments from board members? Commissioner Owen?
Yeah, just on the Keystone Plan, is this the oldest plan that's in the county, or how old is this plan? I guess I'm just curious.
I can look up the effective date. This is one of the plans that was adopted, one of the first community plans, and that it has been updated one time.
Okay.
But it's been several years since that second update.
Yeah,
I can find that date for you.
It's not too important. It's not my district. I just I'm glad just to know that it's been updated. You know, I from what I see in this, Mr. Gormley, is that there is kind of a commercial area that has really been outlined well in that community plan, correct?
Sir.
And this one kind of falls outside of it completely, I guess?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll wait and see if any other commissioners have any comment.
Commissioner Wostel?
Can we know if the property was owned by the current owner prior to the community plan going into place, or is this a new ownership?
I will have to check. Can confirm that in one second, sir.
Mr. Pressman, you want to offer anything?
Ariel has owned the property for approximately 2 to 3 years.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you.
Planning Commission, do you want to?
Sure, I just wanted to reiterate those dates on the record. So the original Keystone Odessa Community Plan was adopted in 2000, it was effective in 2001, and then it was most recently updated in 2016. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and I'll pass the gavel, and I'll move denial.
Okay. Got a motion. You want to have a second? Okay. Any more discussion? If not, please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
All right, thank you. Next item.
The next item,
Mr. Chair, who made the second?
Okay. I'm sorry. A motion by Commissioner Hagan, second by Commissioner Wostel.
Thank you.
The next item is agenda item F4, major mod application 23-0520. The applicant's Lewis Preparatory School. The request is for a major modification of existing plan development for the existing school. The request in and of itself is to modify the mix of students on the project. Again, it's just to orient where it is on the east side of US 41 in Lutz, between Crystal Lake Road and DeBuell Road, and it is an existing school, but it is not at capacity. They are permitted 1,102 students, consisting of a mix of K through 8 and childcare. They're asking to basically modify the number of students to reduce K through 8 by 200 and increase childcare by the same 200, but the total number of students, 1,102, will not change. As part of this request, this is in the rural service area. They are asking to be permitted pursuant to policy, comprehensive policy 4.3.1b to be able to extend utilities to this project. Basically, at build out, they will not, the site cannot accommodate the use of septics for that build out, so they would have to do advanced wastewater or some sort of package plant on site. Therefore, in lieu of that, they're requesting to be allowed to extend utilities to the site. EPC, there's documentation from EPC with them not objecting to the use of public utilities for the reasons outlined in their statement concerning environmental concerns in the area. Based on that and regulations in the Land Development Code that speak to similar issues or allowances for environmental reasons for extension of utilities, and staff, development service staff, is supportive of allowing for that extension. As noted in the record, Planning Commission did find it inconsistent and was not supportive of that extension based on the language in the policy, which states public health reasons, so which they'll certainly expand in their testimony. But again, we are recommending approval. The hearing officers also recommending approval, but in consistency with the Planning Commission, and we're available for any comments, questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here? Good morning.
Good morning again. Cammie Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward & Henderson. And thank you, Brian, for that summary. I think it was pretty thorough. You covered a lot of what I was actually going to cover. I would like to put on the Elmo a map. It's not great to see, but you can see the water connection would be at the blue line right here. And the wastewater connection would be at the red line. And your current LDC allows that connection of the water line. So really we're talking about the wastewater connection. And where we have a difference of opinion here, and I don't even think necessarily the Planning Commission has a problem with the connection, they're talking about a very literal interpretation of their plan policies. The plan policies allow connections for public schools. In the eyes of the state, public schools and charter schools are effectively the same. But the comprehensive plan says public schools. So the Planning Commission didn't feel like they could support the request. And I won't speak for them, they can speak for themselves, but that's consistent with the testimony thus far. The plan also recognizes environmental concerns, and you can see from this map the number of lakes that are in this area. This is in the rural area. These facilities are all located within the rural area, so we're not extending from the urban service area into the rural area. We're tapping into existing utilities that are already in place in the rural service area to protect the environment. And although the EPC letter does not specifically state that today there is a public health hazard, there's not. The system functions now. The issue is if we expand as allowed by the PD, then we will exceed the capacity of the existing system. And at that time, it would not make sense to expand an on-site wastewater treatment. It would make much more sense to connect to public utilities, and we would respectfully request your approval this morning, and I'm here to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Anyone here in support? Any proponent testimony? Anyone in opposition? Not Planning Commission?
Thank you. For the record, Melissa Leinhardt, Planning Commission staff. The subject site is located in the neighborhood mixed use 4 and residential 1 future land use categories. It is in the rural area and also located within the limits of the Lutz community plan. Objective 4 of the future land use element notes that 20% of the growth in the region will occur in the rural area. Policy 4.1 characterizes the rural area as low-density, large lot residential uses and long-term agricultural uses that can exist without the threat of urban or suburban encroachment. A major modification to PD 18-0638 would allow for development that is aligned with this policy direction, as it will be a low-intensity residential support use. A school is considered a residential support use through and will help serve as a transitional use, as the surrounding area consists of primarily single-family residential, homeowner association-owned lands, agricultural uses, light commercial, heavy industrial, and vacant areas as well. Furthermore, the site is situated in 2 future land use categories, and both of those allow for the consideration of residential support uses. The proposed rezoning meets the intent of future land use element objective 16 and its associated policies related to neighborhood protection. The subject site currently serves as a location for Lutz Preparatory School, which serves as both a child care center and a charter school for kindergarten through 8th grade students. Single-family residential uses surround the site to the north, east, and south, and the proposed expansion of the charter school will not only provide a residential support use to the neighborhood established nearby, but it will also provide for an adequate transition and intensity between the heavy industrial and light commercial uses to the west of North Highway 41. The proposed use is compatible with the existing surrounding development pattern and is therefore consistent with this policy direction. As part of this application, it is also requested that the school connect to Hillsborough County water and wastewater. However, Objective 4.3 of the One Water chapter of the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan limits public potable water and wastewater lines from being extended into the rural area except under specified conditions. One Water Policy 4.3.1 states that public potable water and wastewater lines shall not be permitted to be extended into the rural area unless such extensions occur under specific circumstances. The applicable criterion in this case is item C under that policy, which allows an extension of public potable water and wastewater lines to address a public health hazard that is documented by the health department or another regulatory agency. There are letters from both the Department of Health and the Environmental Protection Commission on file as part of the record. The letter from EPC indicates that they have no objection to connection to wastewater and that such a connection would address potential negative environmental impacts. However, it does not specify a public health hazard that would need to be addressed currently. Similarly, the letter from the Department of Health outlines permitting requirements and that the expansion would not be able to be permitted through an on-site sewage treatment and disposal system. The letter from the Department of Health does not indicate a public health hazard to be addressed currently. Though the application is compatible with the uses in the surrounding area and serves as a residential support use, which is allowed at every future land use category, at the time of the filing of this report, the documentation provided did not demonstrate a public health hazard to qualify for an exception from the policies that are outlined in the One Water element. And based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed modification inconsistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Zoning Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered the major modification request to an existing approved plan development to allow the ability to reallocate the combination of students between the K through 8 and child care center without increasing the already approved maximum number of students. The modification also requests the ability to extend public utilities in the rural service area. Development Services Department found the modification to be approvable subject to conditions, stating that the Land Development Code permits consideration of the extension of utility lines in the rural service area if there is an environmental situation for an existing development. As noted, EPC has stated that they would support the school's connection to municipal sewer, which is located approximately 1/2 mile away, to eliminate any negative environmental and odor issues associated with the construction and operation of an on-site wastewater treatment plant. The ZHM found that the major modification request to reallocate the mix of students without exceeding the already approved maximum number of students has minimal impact on the surrounding infrastructure, given the school is existing and an integral part of the community. The ZHM also concluded that the request to extend the utility lines in the rural service area for the existing school meets the overall intent of the Comprehensive Plan's One Water Policy 4.3.1, subsection 4, regarding connections for public schools as schools are permitted in the future land use categories to serve the residents of the county. The ZHM found that the request is compatible with the development pattern consistent with the plan and the code, and recommended approval.
Commissioner Owen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I am going to make a motion on this, but feel free to amend it, Mr. Chairman. I know it's your district. But, you know, I think that this applicant has kind of fallen victim of something that we need to really take a good look at here, because I was very confused when I started looking at the backups, and I know, Mr. Gormley, you cleared a lot of it up, but, you know, our comp plan, as far as if there's a health hazard or health concern, it's pretty absolute on how that's dealt with, correct? We don't even really get to this point if there is a health concern that meets within that criteria of the comp plan, correct?
Yes, we currently have the ability to approve extension of lines to abate a public health or environmental hazard for a current existing development. I think what this is requesting is consideration of, before that occurs, having the line extended.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, I looked at it, I was like, well, then this must be a concern of EPC, because it seems to be more environmental issue related to septic and water than health hazard, correct? Is that safe to say, or?
That was the focus of EPC's comments. The way we were looking at the term health hazard is we were looking, the Land Development Code currently addresses environmental or health concerns. The comprehensive plan, which the Land Development Code implements, only uses the term health. So we're looking at the term health as being broader than, to include environmental concerns that could have health effects on people. Mm-hmm. And I believe that the EPC's comments were supportive of their potential for environmental challenges with a package plant being constructed in this location.
Great. So I'm going to move for approval unless you decide to amend. So.
Okay, we got a motion to approve. Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Wostel, and I wholeheartedly support this request. I've had the opportunity in the past to tour the school. They're doing some wonderful things, and it just makes a lot of sense. So with that, please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
All right, next item.
Next item, agenda item F5, rezoning standard 23-0552. This is a request to rezone from AR to CI with restrictions. Commissioners, this is before you at the last meeting. During board discussion, you did continue this to address questions regarding live local and and looking at ways to you know, prevent development under live local. The applicant is proposing some additional restrictions addressing that, and they're also had, subsequent to the last board meeting, did have meetings with the residents and are proposing additional restrictions based on those conversations. We did provide those conditions as proposed to you as part of the addendum yesterday. At this point, you know, we are in board discussion, so it'd probably be appropriate to hear from the applicant regarding the additional restrictions they're offering up in response to board discussion at the last meeting.
Okay, I believe the applicant's virtual. Is that? Oh, you're here.
Mr. Chair, I have a sort of a late breaking change to the conditions. May I pass these out to the board members?
Thanks.
Hey, Jake.
Thank you again, Jake Kramer, for the record. I'm going to go to the Elmo, please. So, commissioners, you gave us a couple of tasks in our last hearing. The first one was there was a concern at the end of the meeting about whether Live Local would apply to this. What we've done is worked with staff and determined that new condition number 4 on your list would address that. And it does that, in my opinion. This is a legal way to restrict Live Local on this property. The way we're doing that is kind of a distinction only a lawyer could love. We're doing it through utilities, essentially, because your code says if you want to build multifamily, you have to have utilities. So I'm comfortable with this, and I believe your staff is as well. The other new conditions 5, 6, 7, and 8, I can't come before you today, unfortunately, and say that all of the citizens or neighbors are on board with these. What I can tell you is after we had this meeting, We sat down with the neighbors. We not only did that, but I personally toured the neighborhood with the neighbors and gave them a tour of our client's property. And what I can tell you very confidently is I believe these restrictions are addressing the concerns that were raised in the meeting. I'll tell you, this was the first time actually that my client's operators and staff had ever met these neighbors. And so it's you know, this is the interesting part of being a land use lawyer, is sometimes you end up being sort of a neighborhood facilitator. So they're working together much more closely. And what these conditions do is they provide for more restricted and much more robust buffering and screening than when we came before you last time. Number 7 in particular, Commissioner Owen, this addresses a comment you had asked for. We had initially a 20-foot buffer on Rain Frog Lane, which is where the residences are. What we've done is we have increased that to 30 feet. And we also work very closely with natural resources staff because there's some existing vegetation and trees that we're going to work together and conserve as much of that as we can. The other, I think, really very important additional condition is the dog leg on the south of the property. Several of the neighbors, that was their biggest concern. Because they do have some really nice vistas looking out over that property. And frankly, we don't need that property for buildings. We may need it for stormwater. That's the main reason why we have to include it in this rezoning. So what we agreed to them initially was 300 feet. And as of this morning, we were agreeable to restricting that entire 600-foot dog leg. And the restriction would say that no buildings would be allowed there in order to help work with them and their concerns. So with that, I'm here for any questions and appreciate your support today.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I do want to commend the applicant for working with the folks in my district so closely. I understand that not everyone can be pleased with this, and this is the tough thing that decisions commissioners have to make, especially in their own district. And the 30-foot buffer I had asked for last time, to clarify, it was kind of a no, and then now you guys have conceded to that, along with, I think it's important too, the enhancements are still included in there. It looks like you are doing those enhancements that you discussed before. Is that correct to say?
That's right. So this buffer is not only larger than required by code, but it is enhanced, and we're committing to a fence because that was one of the really important things, is dealing with it's an agricultural support use, but there can be noises. And so the fence was also really important to restrict ourselves.
Right, yeah, 'cause this is a tractor supply, correct? So tractors will get turned on and things like that. And there also is going to be, I think, a set time period for lighting too, correct? Could you discuss that really briefly?
Yes, that's one of the original conditions that really helps staff get over their compatibility concerns is restriction number 1, the hours of operation. We did also, I would also note that there's an existing restriction from the last hearing of 140 feet from Rain Frog Lane. So when you do the math, we can only put structures on about 32% of this property.
Okay. And I want to thank my colleague, because he's the one that spotted it, not me, Commissioner Cohen, for pointing out the issues with the zoning. And Mr. Gormley, what this does, it prohibits them from asking for a variance to convert to multifamily in the future, right? So if you could just clarify that as well.
Yes, sir. The restriction that the applicant's proposing is a restriction that requires that development be on septic, and it prohibits a variance to the land development code prohibition of multifamily on septic. So between those two, the utilities that will be required will preclude the use of multifamily on this site, and no variance can be granted to that based on the zoning.
Good. Well, I mean, I look at this as, you know, the applicant has rolled up their sleeves as much as they can on this, and I do appreciate the folks from my district that have come out. You coming out and speaking has definitely impacted the future development of this property. So I'm going to move for approval. Thank you.
Okay, we got a motion to approve with the new conditions by Commissioner Owen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Cohen. Commissioner Wostel?
Mr. Kramer, could you tell me the benefit? I would do anything, as Commissioner Owen, as you know, to prevent Hillsborough County from turning into a multifamily concrete jungle. I do want to state my protest of the government exacting in hours of operation for a business. It seems like, I don't want the government to be a business's daddy. So what is the benefit of us, the government, making them say, we will only be open 8 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday?
Commissioner, you're putting me in a tight spot because I'm probably about as libertarian as it gets. But I will say that in working with your staff, the concern was there are homes in the area, and once any business closes, there's just naturally going to be less light and less sound. And so we wanted to, we can live within those restrictions, so we're comfortable with that.
Okay. Even though I'm going to support it, I will make my protest for the record that I don't like the government exacting hours of operations. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Cameron Tepeda.
Just same thing that, without restrictions, I believe would have been awesome for the same reasons, without too much control, government control. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Please record your vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. F6.
The next item is F6, rezoning standard 23-0828. This is a request to rezone a 1.2 acre parcel that's on the east side of Orient Road. The proposal is to rezone from ASC 1 to CG with restrictions. Again, the Orient where this is, again, on the east side of Orient. Again, the proposed restrictions the applicant is offering up: use restrictions, operating hour restrictions, clarifications, some screening restrictions, and restrictions on no outside activity. This does not meet location criteria. Planning Commission found it inconsistent and did not recommend a waiver of location criteria. Staff, based on the surrounding development pattern, did not support it from a compatibility standpoint, and the hearing officer also did not support this. Staff's available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, is the applicant here? Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members. Todd Pressman, 202nd Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg. We're located in the East Lake Orient Park area, near Sly on Orient Road, as indicated here. And this is the site by the property appraiser owned by Mr. Russ Bruno. Russ is here, as a businessman who owns the site. Currently on the site is a landscape company, of which is Mr. Bruno leases the site to them. As you can see, it's a pretty open site, and it's been in existence for a long time. So we're seeking rezoning from ASC1 to CG restricted. It's a small site, 1.2 acres. The restrictions are no fence in the south because a PVC fence already exists there, but we're adding to the buffer evergreen trees, 10 foot high, 12 foot on center. Importantly, all business and operation activity will be interior only. That's an important consideration and restriction. So all business operation to the interior only. Uniform opaque screening at 4 foot high apply to the fence along the front to make it look a little better, and restriction of hours, no Sunday hours. We are restricting the uses. We want to make this very compatible. No C-store, no motor vehicle, no fast food, no blood plasma, and no recyclable materials recovery. So we wanted to make this as compatible as possible. Development Services indicates the site as residential, commercial, institutional type. Planning Commission pretty much says the same thing. Importantly, Commissioners, we have zero public opposition. Checked the file yesterday, no opposition in the file. Now, one very important finding is that we are under future land use category CMU 12. That allows light industrial, multi-purpose, community retail, research park mixed use. So the underlying future land use category is very intensive. In fact, it's pretty wide throughout this area, as you can see as I pull back from the site in purple. And notes, Planning Commission notes, CMU 12 is intended for areas that are urban in density and intensity of uses. When you look at the zoning map shows ASC1, but it's actually very deceiving because you have some significant manufacturers like US Foods and other manufacturing categories in the area. As you can see just from the aerial, you can see that there's significant campuses of manufacturing schools and technical schools. Directly across the street is a campus of 2 schools, evening schools and technical school. US Foods has a huge plant. Central Florida Landscaping is to the south, which is similar to us in building materials. Across the street is the high school. It's a pretty intensive use. Orient Road is also pretty intensive. Now, interesting enough, Commissioners, to the south, about 0.25 miles is a landscape company. Looks exactly like this site. works well, operates well, no concerns, no opposition. That site was approved in '85, was interpreted as a C3. Looks, acts, situated the same as this applicant. Both work really well. Importantly, on Orient Road, there's almost 8,000 vehicles per day. It's a very busy road, very intensive road. Now, Commissioners, very important and critical finding here is I want to talk about the rezoning on the other side of the property line, which is done in '05. So the subject site is in purple, and in '05 it was rezoned for residential, 40 multifamily and single family. So today's request is commercial against residential, but in '05 the request was residential against our commercial, which is recommended and approved. So today's orientation, you have our site, which is existing, and the rezoning on '05, which resulted in residential. Back in 2005, this is critical, the Planning Commission found it consistent. It's the same issue, residential versus commercial. Zoning Department found it compatible. And the zoning hearing master notes the commercial use and single-family dwellings to the north. So the commercial use was there. It's been there a long time. When it came in 2005, the findings by the staffs were exactly opposite. I would say to you, that's an impossible finding. To say today, all three, to say that it's not compatible, when the exact similar issue on the same property line was found to be consistent by both departments and the zoning hearing master. And in fact, the findings of fact are noting that it would be compatible. Again, this is the current aerial, the subject site, and the residential that was approved. Today's request is commercial, our commercial against residential. In 2005, it was residential against our commercial. Now, in 2003, staffs make a finding that it's not compatible with the surrounding residential area. Even though I've shown you directly next door, it was, and Orient Road is extremely busy, and there's substantial CMU 12, future land use category, throughout the whole vicinity. Additionally, Commissioners, to the north of the site is a 37-foot easement drive that allows for a good separation between the residential to the north. You can see a picture of it to the bottom right. And to the west, the residential is quite a distance away. It's oriented to the very rear of that lot. So as I said to you, the site does have the test of time as well. These are aerials from 2006, 2009, 2002, 1999. So this site's been there a very long time. It's operated well. There's been zero concern or zero opposition or any complaints that we're aware of, except for one, which is in the record, and that was because of an alarm that was ringing. It was the only element listed of which we immediately responded to and had the alarm system fixed. Now, one other twist here is the Transportation Department. Now, the Transportation Department is making some negative comments, but what I will say to you is that under standard zoning, this is not a PD zoning. The Transportation Department does say that these issues, potential transportation impacts, are evaluated at the time of plat, site construction plan, and review. So I'm not really sure why Transportation is wading so much into it. And they note, Transportation, that, of course, the developer property owner will have to comply with the comp plan, LDC, and other applicable rules. And Alex Steady, who handled transportation for the Transportation Department, notes that there is an element of no adverse impact that would have to be demonstrated. That will be done at plat, site plan, and permitting. But to be clear, the report does not object to rezoning to access spacing issues, because quite frankly, right now, the entire front of the site is open for access. There's no designated access point, where I would suggest to you the Transportation Department should be coming forward and saying, we want to restrict this to one driveway now as a condition or in the future to control it better. So in summary, we've had zero public opposition other than the one alarm issue that was ringing. We've added significant restrictions to control and make the use compatible. CMU 12 is a very high intensive future land use category. It's reflective of the broad area. The zoning map does not present the existing intensities well, which are extensive in the immediate area, and indicate there's a large mix of intense uses. The 2005 abutting approvals reviewed the same issues today with a 180-degree difference. And the similar use, which is existing, has worked fine for the test of time. So with that, we appreciate your attention, and I'm not sure if Mr. Bruno, who owns the site, would like to make a comment or two. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone here? Okay, come forward, sir. Is he the applicant?
The 2 minutes.
Yeah.
If you may.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for your time today. About 2 years ago,
Sir, can you do name and address for the record?
Russ Bruno, 6112 Yates Manor Drive, Tampa, Florida, 33616. About 2 years ago, we bought the property from the previous owner, and when we purchased the property, it was being used as an industrial cleaning supply company. And also the property itself had boats, cars, and was clearly used as some sort of storage or whatnot. So when we came on board, right before we closed, we had to do some remediation. There was an old well in the ground. And so we spent some significant time working in the area to just clean up the property as a whole. The pictures that actually were shown were a little bit older. There's no junk anymore. We've spent a lot of money removing those things, boats, old RVs from the property itself. When we went to lease the property after we closed, we spent a significant amount of time to try to find the right type of person that could be in there. We had mechanics, all sorts of high use for the property that we just decided to go with a landscaping company that was new to the area. They wanted to come into the area from down south, and we wanted to give them an opportunity to grow inside of the Hillsborough County. In doing such, the landscaping companies said that they would actually put more trees up and do things because they want to be here for a long time. We've got a lease with them for roughly 3 more years. We haven't had any problem with them, great tenants. Maybe down the road they want to do more with the property, but currently we haven't had any issues with any of the people surrounding the area. And I spent a lot of time talking to people in the area, and other than the issue that we had when we first bought the property, the alarm went off many different times, and we've fixed that issue. So just hope you guys can vote in the respect to for us today. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone here in support? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission?
Thank you, Melissa Leinhardt, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the Community Mixed Use 12 Future Land Use category. It is in the urban service area and located within the limits of the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan. The request does not meet the compatibility criteria outlined in Future Land Use Element Policy 1.4, which requires that all new developments be compatible with the surrounding area, noting that compatibility does not mean the same as, rather it refers to the sensitivity of development proposals and maintaining the character of existing development. The subject site directly abuts single-family residential dwellings to the south. Single-family units are also located north and east. A rezoning to commercial general would not be harmonious or compatible with the single-family residential character of the area to the north, east, and south. The applicant submitted a list of proposed restrictions that includes convenience stores with and without gasoline sales, motor vehicle repair, fast food restaurants with or without drive-thrus, blood and plasma donation centers, and recyclable material recovery facilities. Although Planning Commission staff is receptive toward the proposed restrictions, the remaining range of CG uses and their intensity present significant compatibility concerns with the residential uses located near the subject site. In the CMU 12 Future Land Use category, non-residential uses are not required to meet commercial locational criteria. Rather, this category requires that non-residential land uses be compatible with the residential land uses that are allowed in this category through established techniques of transition or by restricting the location of incompatible uses. Although the applicant has submitted a list of restrictions and operating hours, the remaining range of CG uses could still allow for adverse impacts on the residential areas near the site. The application is therefore inconsistent with this policy direction. Future Land Use Element Objective 16 and its accompanying policies require the protection of existing neighborhoods through various mechanisms. Policy 16.1 states that established and planned neighborhoods and communities shall be protected by implementing buffering and screening techniques between unlike land uses. Planning Commission staff acknowledges the buffering and screening techniques that were submitted with the proposed restrictions. Although these techniques aim at remedying adverse impacts, the remaining range of CG uses would still be incompatible with the proposed fencing and landscape buffers. Similarly, policies 16.2 and 3 seek to ensure that uses are complementary to one another and that there are gradual transitions between unlike uses. The proposed CG zoning district is too intense for the residential character of the surrounding area, and although the subject site is located along a collector roadway, it is within an established neighborhood, making the proposed rezoning inconsistent with this policy direction. The request is also inconsistent with the vision of the East Lake Orient Park Community Plan. The plan's economic development goal seeks to create commercial redevelopment along 56th Street and to create a commercial and mixed-use district along Orient Road from Hillsborough Avenue to Columbus Drive. The subject site is not located within either of these areas where commercial development is to be directed. By contrast, the plan's housing goal seeks to evaluate land uses along Orient Road to allow for higher density dwelling units. In considering this goal and the residential nature of the surrounding area, the proposed rezoning to CG would allow for development that is inconsistent with this vision. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning inconsistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Hearing master.
The zoning hearing master considered the applicant's request for a rezoning to the commercial general restricted zoning district. The property is 1.2 acres in size, currently ASC1, designated CMU 12 by the comprehensive plan. As you've heard, the Planning Commission staff does not support the rezoning request as it found it to be incompatible with the surrounding development pattern and also inconsistent with the East Lake Orient Community Plan and overall comprehensive plan. Development Services staff also does not support the requested rezoning, stating that commercial land uses are not compatible with the existing development pattern along the subject portion of Orient Road. Transportation staff further stated that the site exceeds the limitation of a single access point as 2 access points are proposed. The access points do not meet required spacing standards and there is insufficient right-of-way to accommodate required turn lanes. The zoning hearing master concluded that the request for commercial general with the proposed restrictions is not compatible with the surrounding land uses, which include an institutional use to the west, townhomes to the south, and single-family residences to the north and east, given the remaining CG permitted uses that are available to be considered for the property under the code. The longstanding commercial use on the subject property zoned ASC1 is not justification for rezoning to commercial general restricted, as that rezoning would permit a wide range of commercial land uses incompatible with the surrounding area. The zoning hearing master concluded that the rezoning proposed to CGR is incompatible with the development pattern in the area and with the code and plan and recommended denial.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board? Commissioner Owen?
Yes, this is not my district, but I have a quick question on the, there was no opposition to that. Is that correct, that there was no opposition to this? Okay. Just one letter? So was the prior owner in violation of code? It sounds to me that they were using it commercially, so were they in violation?
Yes, the site is currently zoned agricultural,
Right.
so the use described would not have been permitted. It would have been an unpermitted use on the site. Yes, sir.
Okay. Can someone pull the map? I want to look at the residential properties that are surrounded. I went to school at Tampa Bay Tech for 1 year, and it is surrounded by just warehouses and, you know, kind of heavy commercial warehouses. So I just, yeah. So I want to get clarity on the neighborhoods here because unless they're brand new, I'm just trying to get a grasp of it because I didn't drive out there and look at it. Go ahead. If you want to, as the applicant representative, point out the residential uses or give some type of rebuttal to that, that's fine with me.
If we could pull up the PowerPoint, there you are. So the site is located here in the Star. This is Central Florida Landscaping Foundation. This is a building materials storage and operation This is U.S. Foods Manufacturing. This is Tampa Bay Tech High School and High Tech Evening Tech School and University Academy of Florida. To the south of the site, as I showed you, was the 05 rezoning here. There's one residential to the north, which of course was noticed, and one residential that I'm aware of to the west. And it looks like up in the corner here as well, it looks like there's some residential here. But along Orient, you can see, is, if I may, as Commissioner Owen has indicated, are very intensive uses, CG, CI manufacturing uses under the CMU 12. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'll sit back and listen to other commissioners. Thank you.
Commissioner Kemp?
And thank you. It was helpful to see that map. I wanted to see the same thing to just kind of get a sense of it. And I'm just, it looks like there is some, I mean, you can see the residential to the south. You can see the residential kind of to the southeast there. Looks like maybe if we had even a bigger thing, we would see more residential off of Orient Road around there. It looks like to me. And I'm just wondering, because there's no, the applicant has said that they cleaned up the property. That seems like that's true. And that, that now it's a landscape business, which the landscape business itself seems very compatible, but then we're doing a bigger thing, which is just commercial general, to allow maybe who knows what in the future for this. It's leased land. So I'm just wondering about, I don't know, maybe someone could speak to if for instance, this could be remanded or continued to consider more restrictions to the commercial general, or even if there could be maybe a, I don't know, a change, a category. Commercial intensive doesn't seem right. I don't think we would want something more intensive, but because of its proximity, it just seems like commercial general could be okay, or could the landscaping business exist within community type of category, community commercial or commercial neighborhood? Or is there other things that we can do that could restrict some of the perhaps most concerning types of commercial that could be in there and come out with, I mean, I think it would be great to live next door to a landscaping place myself, but I'm just wondering if staff has any suggestions, if anyone else, if we were to continue or remand, that we might be able to do something like that.
So, Commissioner, this is a standard zoning district with restrictions being offered by the applicant. So the short answer is yes, there is it certainly could have additional restrictions on it that would restrict the use further than what's proposed, even to a singular use. Since it's a standard zoning request, that's something that the applicant would need to offer up, as opposed to a planned development where it can be a county-generated conditions. But certainly if the applicant was amenable to that conversation.
I'd like to ask the applicant if they would be willing, either, if we were to continue this, to maybe address, it could be, I'm sure, broader than landscaping, but to address, to have some, restrictions on the possible commercial use, to restrict the more, the more difficult possibilities that might be out there.
Well, Commissioner, I'm always happy to work with the commissioners, and so is the applicant. I would just say, with all due respect and not rejecting that at all, is that I think we have submitted a number of conditions. One particularly, that all activity has to be interior. I think that really helps control the site for activity in the future. But we're happy to do whatever the commission would like.
Can we hear those conditions, how long is that? Like, can we just
Sure,
hear what those conditions are?
Yes, Commissioner, I can read those for you.
Yes.
They're proposing 4 restrictions. The first restriction is all business activity shall be carried on internally within the buildings on site. There shall be no exterior business activity. The second one is a uniform opaque screening shall be applied on the existing fencing along the front west, quote unquote, west of the property to screen the use from the street. Operating hours shall be Monday through Saturday from the hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. There will be no Sunday hours of operation. And then the fourth, the following uses shall be restricted on the property, so these will be prohibited. Convenience stores with or without gas sales.
Can you read that a little slower,
Sorry.
please?
Convenience stores with or, these are prohibited uses. Convenience store with or without gas sales, motor vehicle repair, fast food with or without drive-through, blood plasma center, and recyclable materials recovery facility. So those are uses they've offered.
Right, I did hear those at the beginning, and it does seem like some of those might be troublesome, actually. In terms of, what would be compatible with the residents around there at that time. I don't know. I would like to continue and see if staff can't work with staff or others can't work to look at bringing back further restrictions. Is that because it would allow now for instance, the blood plasma, the fast food, correct?
No.
Oh, those were restrictions that would not. Okay.
Sorry. Those 4, the uses I listed are things they've prohibited, they voluntarily prohibited, so they would not.
Okay, I'm sorry, because I didn't quite hear the beginning when you went into that. Okay. I don't know, I'll leave it up to others to talk, but it sounds, those, if those were restricting what you said, the automotive, the blood plasma, I mean, that does seem to, or the list you made does seem to bring, would make restrictions in place that would just be, I can't go through the whole list right now, but or the possibilities, but I'm thinking that might be restrictive enough to be acceptable.
Commissioner Wilstel?
Yeah, I see Commissioner Myers is queued now. I was going to put a nail in this coffin, but now that I understand that it was completely prohibited, that they couldn't be a recycling facility, I thought you were saying that you were restricting it to that one of the possibilities. So I'm more than happy to move forward with this as it is. It seems not that controversial to me. I'll listen to Commissioner Myers, though.
Commissioner Myers.
Thank you. Mr. Pressman, can you come back up, please? Because, I always want to support what's in my district.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any way this can be tweaked? I know, and you always present the best information when you come before us.
Thank you.
Always. Mm-hmm. But I'm a little skeptical about this, but I want it to be supportive. Mm-hmm. What are the options there are besides what you presented today?
If you give me 30 seconds.
Sounds like a plan. I hope that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
We're happy, we're a little hesitant to make a snap judgment, but we're happy to have remand time to go back and work with staff with the direction of the commission, and if that's the commission's wish, to make sure it's something that you're comfortable with.
Make a motion to remand.
I'll do a second.
Okay.
Commissioner Cohen?
So I just want to, since it looks as though it's going back, I think it's important to be clear about what is being asked for here. I think you're being asked to take the conditions and restrict them down a little bit further, to make it just a little tighter than it already is. It sounds like it's most of the way there, but if there are some other things that could be restricted, that might be enough to, and I think we'll leave it in your hands to come back to us with some any additional restrictions.
Sure. I appreciate the clarity, and we're happy to work with the commission. Thank you.
Okay, we have a remand motion by Commissioner Meyer, second Commissioner Kemp, and the only comment I'm going to say is not too far from here is the Islamic Society of Tampa Bay, the mosque there, and I can tell you from through the years when there was something that they were not comfortable with, they would certainly make their voice heard, and as we can see, no one's here is in opposition, so just want to put that out there. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Please record your vote.
The date of this remand will be January 16th, 2024 at 6 p.m.
Okay.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Board members, we have 3 items left. I think we can go through them fairly quickly if everyone's comfortable. Just moving right through. Okay. F7.
Yes, Commissioners, next item is agenda item F7 is rezoning standard 23-0932. This is a request to rezone a 1.54 acre parcel from RSC 6 and RSC 4 to commercial general with restrictions. The restrictions are use restrictions and also a restriction regarding how the parcel would be accessed. Basin surrounding development pattern with a mini warehouse facility with a boat and RV storage across the street, and the fact that the parcel is separated from the adjacent residential by existing right-of-way, and the fact that the site does meet commercial location criteria, and based on the restrictions, Development Services did find this request compatible. Planning Mission did find it inconsistent, which they'll go into in the report, I think, based on some use transition policies within the comprehensive plan, and the hearing officer did recommend approval. Staff's available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here? Good afternoon.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Todd Pressman, 202nd Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg. This is REZ 23-0932. I'm here with Richard Gonzalez, who's the property owner. He'll have a few comments to make as well. We're in the Seffner Mango area, as indicated in the mapping. We're on Kingsway Road, just south of MLK. It's 2 separate parcels. As you can see, they're separated by just a little bit of right-of-way, unimproved right-of-way. Issue of the rezoning is RSC 6 to CGR. It's a smaller parcel, 1.2 acres total. I'm not used to saying this. Development Services supports with condition, and Transportation had no objections. We meet locational criteria, and we've had 0 opposition. And the ZHM supports. ZHM reports that the commercial location criteria is a factor, supports requests to CG, and is consistent with the LDC and the comp plan. So we have restrictions on this for no motor vehicle repair, no freestanding fast food restaurant, no convenience store, and restricted to direct vehicular access to Girard Avenue or 1 single vehicular access. That's something transportation wanted, which makes sense. We have no problem with that whatsoever. So again, looking at the location here at MLK and Kingsway, you'll note that there's a railroad passageway just to the north, carrying railroad traffic. Meets location criteria of the comp plan, means scale of new commercial nodes, characters, surrounding areas, compatible and accessibility to the site. This is the railroad line, just to give you a little perspective of the intensity of the site. To the rear is a 70-foot, more or less, public right-of-way as well, which is unimproved, so it gives us good separation and buffering, plus the buffering and separations, screening that would be on the property. So it's a pretty extreme buffering area. Development Services note that the right-of-way varies from 60 feet to 70 feet with a 30-foot minimum setback. Setbacks are going to be 90 to 100 feet with buffering and screening, so good separation there. Lots of trips on Kingsway, 9,000 vehicles per day to the north, 10,900 to the south. Martin Luther King carries 20,400 vehicles per day. Now, very interesting, directly across the street, I have the 2 parcels in purple. Directly across the street is PD 211092, which the staff referred to. You have CG to the north and CN. Across the street was approved for 54,000 square feet of self-storage, 3-story self-storage on part, and then open boat vehicle storage directly across the street, which is under the zoning code is a CI use, intensive use, approved through the process, staffs, and Board of County Commissioners. Again, a CI zoning use. So this is what's directly across the street at Kingsway, which was approved in 2002. And again, another shot directly across the street on Kingsway. This is what's on the southern parcel currently. part of the project site. It previously served as the Sefton Mango Volunteer Fire Department, and that had a very intensive use, obviously, for quite a period of time. It's not there currently, but that was some of the historical use and noted under the warranty deed. And this is a historical picture, again, just presenting you some of the intensities of the site and the test of time that it existed there. Planning Commission notes the subject site's located next to the single-family dwellings to the east, which is where this great separation is. Future land use policy states that established planned neighborhoods and communities shall be protected, implemented from buffering and screening, which we are, and I've indicated that's pretty extreme. Again, the exterior use is CI across the street, which is recognized by the staffs in their reports as well. We are also well within locational criteria, showing more or less the commercial location criteria from the intersection. We're well within that. And again, location criteria is an important criteria. We also have a few letters of support, as indicated here, to the rear of the site, the two owners to the rear, which have that great separation. So in summary, Development Services, ZHM supports, transportation is no opposition, meets the location criteria. We're including significant restrictions of uses. Buffering far exceeds code requirements. Recent BOCC action across the street was very intensive. Sites had the test of time and support from some of the neighbors. So with that, we appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard had a comment or two.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Board. Richard Gonzalez, 612 Chastain Road, Sefner, Florida. Really appreciate your consideration. My father passed away in January of 22, and we've had our business there actually operating for over 15 years. Me and my sister discovered that it was not really zoned for what we were using it for, so we decided to take the proactive and go ahead and get it rezoned, but we appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone here in support of the application? Any opposition? Planning Commission?
Thank you. For the record, Melissa Leinhardt, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the residential 4 future land use category. It is in the urban service area and also within the limits of the Sefner Mango Community Plan. The subject site meets commercial locational criteria as outlined in the future land use element. However, policy 22.7 states that locational criteria are not the only factors to be considered. Factors such as land use compatibility are also considered, and in this case, Planning Commission staff has concerns regarding the compatibility of the proposed land uses in close proximity to single-family residential dwellings. Future land use element policy 22.5 contains additional policy direction about the location of new non-residential developments. This policy direction outlines that with new non-residential developments at intersections that do meet locational criteria, a transition in land use should be established that recognizes the existing surrounding community character and supports the creation of a walkable environment. This transition includes clustering the most intensive land uses toward the qualifying intersection and then providing less intense uses such as offices, professional services, or specialty retail toward the edges of the commercial node. In this case, while the site does meet commercial locational criteria, it is located approximately 730 feet south of the intersection within a 900-foot node. According to the policy direction established in policy 22.5, the uses should be transitioning into less intense uses, moving away from that intersection. Currently, at the intersection of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, which is an arterial roadway, and South Kingsway Road, which is a collector roadway, there is a CSX railway and a vacant parcel of land. The proposed rezoning would allow for commercial uses that are too intense for the outer portion of the qualifying node per policy direction, especially given that there are vacant uses closer to the intersection. The restrictions proposed by the applicant would allow for uses that are still too intensive when considering the existing residential uses located between the subject site and the qualifying intersection node. The proposed rezoning request is also inconsistent with Goal 2 of the Sefner Mango Community Plan, which seeks to enhance the community character and ensure quality residential and non-residential development. One of the strategies under that goal is to discourage commercial encroachment into residential areas between US 92 and Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard, south of Martin Luther King Boulevard. The subject site is in a residential area located south of Martin Luther King Boulevard, and the range of allowable CG uses outside of the proposed restrictions would directly conflict with this goal and is therefore inconsistent with the vision of the Sefner Mango Community Plan. And based on those considerations, Planning Commission staff is finding the proposed rezoning inconsistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Hearing master.
The zoning hearing master considered the applicant's request to rezone the property to the commercial general restricted zoning district. This property is 1.54 acres in size, currently zoned RSC4 and I think that might be a typo, RSC6, and designated residential 4 by the comprehensive plan. The parcel is located within the urban service area and the Sefter Mango Community Plan area. The zoning hearing master noted that the proposed restrictions permit commercial general land uses with prohibitions on convenience stores with gas pumps, motor vehicle repair, and fast food restaurants with drive-throughs. Additionally, the restrictions will require direct access to Girard Avenue or one single access point to Kingsway Road if Girard Avenue is vacated in the future. Development Services Department staff support the rezoning application based on the applicant's commitment to restrict certain commercial general land uses and access potential. Compliance with the required commercial locational criteria and proximity to the existing self-storage and boat storage facility directly across Kingsway Road from the subject property support the request to commercial general with restrictions. The zoning hearing master found the rezoning to be consistent with the land development code and the comprehensive plan and recommended approval.
Okay, Commissioner Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I always have to ask Mr. Gormley, this would have no issue with live local, correct? This rezone, it's in my district, so.
Commissioner, if this was rezoned, it would have a commercial land use designation. So that is a zoning district that's contemplated under live local. So I wouldn't anticipate this would be a location for a multifamily rental housing project. However, we couldn't say that it could not be considered under the law under the commercial general restricted.
Is there some type of restriction we can put in this, or this is, I know this is different because it's within the urban service area.
It is a little different. So with that requirement for septic would not be as useful in this location.
Yeah, I sure hate applicants falling victim to that legislation when it's pretty crystal clear that that's not the intended use at this time. Because what I see when I look around, I see lots of commercial, pretty intense around this area, correct?
Yes, we thought that the uses as proposed and as restricted would be compatible with the surrounding development pattern.
And it looks like it's the access points as far as the bifurcation we've done by the avenue. Could you clarify that real quick too? Because I know that was a concern.
Yeah, so it was a concern about how the site would be accessed. So what the applicant has restricted their access to either being off the road that bisects the two parcels, or if that road were vacated, the access would still be in that same location. So that restriction that the applicant has offered had addressed the concerns that we might have regarding access onto Kingsway and any potential spacing concerns.
And there's no opposition to this?
No opposition.
Can I see the applicant real quick? Mr. Pressman, you understand my concerns, that I understand this, again, it's put you in a tough position, you and your client, when it comes to the live local. But I have real serious concerns, nothing to do with the use of this property. I think that, and this is, the applicant is already, is currently in code violation. Is that the issue right now, or?
Actually, I'm not sure if they're under code citation, but the use is not permittable. I'd have to look at my record. But what I would say to commissioners, it's only a Res 4, it's a very small property.
Right.
So if that even were to occur, which is not the intent of developers, it would be very small.
Okay.
In any regard. But I can assure you, and the Gonzaleses have been developers in the area for a very, very long time.
Sure.
And the projects that I've handled for them over 20 years, what they intend they to be are what they end up being.
Okay. I'm going to move for approval.
Second.
We've got a motion to approve, Commissioner Owen, second Commissioner Cohen, and I wholeheartedly support this. It's not my district, but I'm very familiar with the property. I've actually been to this office several times through the years, and there are significant restrictions included on the application, so I have no issues with supporting it. No other comments? Please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
All right, thank you. Now with F8, before steps jumps in here, I just want to say that we've previously delayed this until the acceptance of the plat, pending the outcome of a lawsuit that's existing now with Keystone and Taylor Morrison. I guess the case has been heard, but the ruling is expected soon. And depending on the ruling, any action taken today, we may have to reconsider at a future date. So I'm going to recommend continuing the item as we've done before. Adam, are you guys okay with that? Do you have any issues with that?
Yes, sir. I think that would be consistent with the prior actions by the board. I would suggest continuing it to the January 9th land use meeting, and if we, for some reason, don't have a decision by that point, it can be further continued.
So moved.
Okay, we got a motion to continue to January 9th by Commissioner Kemp, second Commissioner Myers. No other comments. Please record your vote.
Commissioner Cohen. Commissioner Cohen. Motion carried, 7-0.
All right, last item.
The last item is agenda item F1, major mod application 23-0407. This is requests for major modification of existing PD that's located at the northeast of Paul's Drive and Lumsden Road. The request is for a major modification of existing planned development to modify the portion of the PD that currently permits commercial uses. The request is to allow for 40 multifamily units on the property. Staff is recommending approval. Planning Commission found it consistent, and the hearing officer is also recommending approval. Staff is available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant here? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. For the record, again, Elise Batzel with Stearns Weaver Miller, 401 East Jackson Street, Suite 2400. We are here with members of our development team. This property is 7.67 acres located in Brandon. It is generally north of West Lumsden Road, east of Brandon Parkway, and west of Kings Avenue. It is located near existing multifamily, single-family, and commercial developments. As you can see here, it is 7.6 acres of a larger 35-acre PD. Other portions of this 35 acres are developed with commercial outparcels and a self-storage facility. As you can see, the future land use map, it's residential 12 future land use category, and it is within the urban service area. So the PD is really interesting. Currently, the overall PD permits 108,000 plus or minus square feet of retail, restaurant, business office uses, and self-storage uses, with 20 single-family attached units permitted as of right today. So the project that we're proposing, this is a modest multifamily project. It's 40 units. The density permitted under the comp plan is 12 units per acre, but we're asking for 5.22 dwelling units per acre. We're also limiting the height to 2 stories or 35 feet. There's going to be 2 buildings. The property, as you can see, has 2 pieces. The piece that is where the development is going to occur is shaded in here. The rest will be used for conservation open space as well as for a stormwater retention pond. So you can see here, the areas in green are no development. The only area proposed for development is the area that is outlined in blue. So parking. In red is the outline of the parking envelope. All of the parking is going to be on site. at zoning hearing master where there were concerns about the trail and the trail parking. We are not affecting any of the trail parking. We have all of our own parking on site. And in fact, as part of the requirements of the PD, we're going to have to construct a 700-foot sidewalk extending beyond our property, which will also help facilitate connectivity for pedestrians. There's less than 50 trips generated, so we weren't required to do a traffic study. But according to your staff report, there are 16 new AM peak hour trips and only 20 PM peak hour trips. So that equates to one trip every 3.8 minutes, one trip every 3 minutes. It's always good to have, what does that mean? We did do a virtual community meeting on October 10th. Notice was sent out to all of the property owners required to receive notice under the code, and any property owners who had submitted letters of opposition. There were letters of opposition in the file, and we wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity to have a dialogue with the community because we felt like there was a lot of misunderstanding about what we were doing on this property and what areas were going to be affected with proposed development. Your staff has recommended approval. Planning Commission has found it consistent, and the zoning hearing master does recommend approval. I just want to put one more thing on the record too. This site, because it is zoned today, which would permit 80,000 square feet of commercial, if you do approve this zoning with respect to the ability to develop under Live Local, it would no longer be eligible. So there would be 40 units instead of, I think it's 238 units under Live Local. So this is a very modest multifamily development, appropriate for that particular section. And we're here to answer any questions that you have.
All right, thank you. Any proponent testimony? Anyone here in support? Anyone in opposition? I know we have one person, I believe, signed up virtually.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. We have an Austin Zane.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Hi, good afternoon. Hold on. Austin, can you just start your video for us? Thank you. Yes, sorry, I had to get it. Good afternoon, commissioners. I'm Austin. You guys know me. I'm speaking in opposition to this proposal for a number of reasons. Safety concern is definitely one of the top priorities, and environmental concern is the second. On the proposed plan, it shows that Paul's Drive is a dead-end road, and where the proposed project is located is directly adjacent to the parking spots for the Brandon Parkway Trail. And there's only about 15 or so parking spaces. So there's not a lot of parking. And my concern is all the pedestrians that walk up and down the road itself and on the sidewalks. I do like the idea of putting in a sidewalk on the opposite side of the parkway because that definitely would make it safer. But still the traffic would be intensified and people pulling out in and out of the proposed location would cause concern for people who have parked their cars there. Maybe it could get sideswiped. I'm also concerned about the level of trash and traffic that's going to be inundated on the Brandon Parkway Trail because currently there are brand new apartments that had just gone up right next to the Arise Church. And then there is a whole, like a new town complex that's being built like directly in the fields next to the Parkway Trail. So there's a lot of apartments there, and I fear that in the future it will become very congested on that road because it's a one-way road, two lanes, one way, back and either way, and it's at a dead end, and the only way in or out on that end where the apartments will be located, there's a TD Bank, and there's a private driveway for the bank. And so it seems like it would be very congested in a tight spot for people to be pulling in and using it as a new throughway. And I just feel like in general it's on wetlands as well. When it rains heavily, the land does fill up with water. And I feel like there's protected environment out there and many species of animals and birds that benefit from having the woodlands there. And I understand that it's the man's property. He can build if he wants to. I understand it's zoned for commercial, so commercial may go in there. It will be built up upon, I fear, but I have hope that maybe this can be denied for the concern of the neighborhood and the citizens' safety and the people who walk down the Brandon Parkway Trail, and also for so I would like to please, asking you please don't approve this project because of the safety issues and the environmental impact it would have on the already existing wetlands that are there. And yeah, that's all I have to say. So thank you and happy holidays. God bless.
All right, thank you, Mr. Zane. This time, applicant has a 5-minute rebuttal.
Yes, thank you. With respect to wildlife, there are legal protections in place for any kind of listed species. We do have to get an ERP permit, and that does go to Fish and Wildlife for review. So if there was any impact, obviously we would not get our permit unless we'd done everything in accordance with Florida law. With respect to the wetlands, there are no wetlands, upland wetlands on the site. There are in the larger PD, but there's 0 upland wetlands. There's no state or federal regulated wetlands, and all there is a 1.3 acre stormwater pond. So we aren't impacting any wetlands. The wetlands that Mr. Zane is referring to are not on the area that is going through this application. He also had concerns about safety. Just as a note, if this PD is approved, the county engineer has approved or will approve a design exception dated September 26th, 2023, was found approvable by the city or the county engineer. And since Paul's Drive is a substandard roadway, we're going to be required with the initial increment of development to construct that 700-foot linear, 10-foot sidewalk, multi-use path. And we have to coordinate that and get it approved with Public Works. So we have to make sure that those movements are safe under the county regulations. With respect to traffic, again, much less 5,000 less trips than what's approved today, 3 cars per hour or 3.8 per hour. And that's it. Thank you so much. We're here to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Planning Commission.
Thank you. For the record, Melissa Leinhard, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the residential 12 future land use category. It is in the urban service area and also located within the limits of the Brandon Community Plan. Future Land Use Element Policy 1.4 outlines compatibility as the characteristics of different uses or activities or design which allow them to be located near or adjacent to one another in harmony. Compatibility does not mean the same as, rather it refers to the sensitivity of development proposals and maintaining the character of the existing surrounding development. The proposed major modification is compatible with the existing residential, public, and commercial uses surrounding the subject site. Per Future Land Use Element Policy 1.2, at least 75% of the allowable density of the land use category is required. The proposed 40 units is far below the 75% threshold of 86 units. Policy 1.3 of the future land use element does outline and allow for an exemption to minimum density if the development would have an adverse impact on the overall planned development's environmental features. The proposed location for the density is to minimize impacts to the environmental features on the entire PD. Due to the extensive on-site wetland system in the overall planned development, Planning Commission staff is supportive of the minimum density exception. The site is also located within the Urban General Character District, as shown on the Character Districts map in the Brandon Community Plan. The Urban General District includes mixed-use building types designed to accommodate retail, offices, and dwellings, including row houses, townhomes, and multifamily housing. The proposed development will include multifamily housing, which meets the intent of the Urban General Character District and is therefore consistent with the vision of the Brandon Community Plan. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed modification consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by Development Services. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered the proposed modification of a plan development that is currently approved for 2 phases of development. Phase 1 currently is approved for 75,000 square feet of commercial neighborhood uses and 15,000 square feet of office personal service land use or a mini warehouse at a maximum FAR of 0.5. The modification requests to eliminate approximately 80,000 square feet of commercial entitlements from Phase 1 and develop 40 multifamily dwelling units. During the zoning hearing master hearing, testimony in opposition was provided from 2 residents, and it was based on concerns that the development of the property would eliminate parking for the nearby Brandon Parkway Trail. Additionally, concerns were raised regarding the impact of the development to existing wetlands and potential impacts on wildlife, as well as general concerns about congested roadways. In response, the applicant's representative testified that the property has 0 wetlands and therefore no wetlands will be impacted. Additionally, wildlife impacts will be addressed through required permitting through state and federal agencies. Finally, the applicant's representative stated that the parking for the trail that's located on the subject property is not appropriate as the property is owned by the applicant and can be developed in accordance with applicable regulations. The zoning hearing master found the request to be compatible with surrounding uses and consistent with the comprehensive plan and the land development code, and the zoning hearing master concluded with a recommendation of approval.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Owen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Elise, can I have you for 1 second? This is going to be limited to 2 stories, correct?
2 stories, 35 feet max.
And these are these going to be townhomes or apartments?
It's a multifamily building, but it's those 2 stories. It doesn't technically qualify as a townhome because of the way it's designed, but it looks very small in scale, and it's only 2 stories.
Yeah, this particular area, Paul's Drive is a tough road. I mean, I don't know when it was approved, but one of the prior boards approved this massive metropolis off Paul's Drive. I actually attend a Rice Church. That's where I go to church. And it's, this road was going to be Main Street. It was going to be really the county seat if Brandon ever incorporated, but that ship has sailed a long time ago. To me, it's very compatible when you look at the paddocks, how that starts in the middle of Lumsden. You traverse west, and you have very high density of multifamily, and then those apartments mixed with commercial. Now, the bank that's there, will there have to be some type of agreement with the bank, Mr. Gormley? I mean, to me, it looks like that there'll be the ability for cut-throughs. Has the bank objected, or has there been any comments by the bank that's there off Lumsden?
I don't believe that we've had any comments from the bank, and while there is a physical connection between the 2, that connection is limited to cross-access. So it would not be permissible for traffic to come up Lumsden and access the apartments by cutting through the bank. I know physically it can happen, but the way it's...
Well, if the bank didn't object, people do it through convenience stores every day off Bell Shoals, so I understand how that could pose a problem. But if they didn't object to it, then and the owner of this, the Arise does not own this real estate, correct?
No, Mr. Brian Funk.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify. I just started noticing that it was pretty close to my church. So
no worries.
Commissioner Myers, I know this is technically your district. It's pretty close to mine, but to me, I see very much high compatibility with this particular property, so I'll sit back and listen. Thanks.
Commissioner Cohen?
I think that any way you look at this, what's being proposed is superior to what's already entitled there. And, we're not starting with a blank slate here. There's already entitlements for major commercial activity on this project, on this property that would be scaled back with this proposal. My question for the staff, I just want to understand, and it really doesn't affect my feelings about this plan, but this is a PD currently with commercial entitlements on it. So can Live Local pierce a PD that's not technically zoned commercial or industrial but has those uses?
So, Commissioner, that's a I think, a question that different jurisdictions are looking at different ways. The way Live Local is written, it is zoned for commercial uses or industrial uses. We have taken the view here that if a PD is zoned for commercial uses or to allow industrial uses, that falls within the language of Live Local. But there are some jurisdictions who have taken a different approach for various reasons.
Well, then certainly under Hillsborough County's reading of the meaning of the law, this is a much better proposal than what sits on the property now. So I'm going to move approval. I think it's an improvement.
Okay, we got a motion to approve. Commissioner Cohen, second Commissioner Myers and Kemp. Commissioner Owen?
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would even argue too, Commissioner Cohen, that if you look at compatibility even with affordable housing in this particular area from the mall to this area, it's even if they didn't go Live Local and they came before us, I have to be consistent with how I speak. You've got public transportation access to 75. So even if it did go that route, I don't even think it'd be necessary for them to go Live Local. They could go through the regular zoning process, and I don't know how we could counteract that. So, but the great points, and I'll be supporting as well. Thank you.
Commissioner Myers?
And the last thing I just want to add, we have the transit that is there at the mall. So that's a plus in itself.
All right, well said. All right, we have a motion and a second. No other comments. Please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
All right, thank you
for your time.
Adam, any other items?
Sir, that concludes our agenda.
All right, we're adjourned.
Are you going to recognize?
Does it have to be on the record? Yeah, Commissioner Myers.
Yes. I just would like to request in the future, instead of us receiving materials the morning of the meeting, if we can have it the Friday before, that we can let all the applicants know. You know, trying to receive it the day of the meeting, to look at it, and then pay attention. I think because they've already, it's already prepared, but it's not giving us the opportunity to really look at the materials. So I have a problem with receiving materials the same day I'm sitting in the meeting.
I mean, if any effort, can be made to accommodate that, I know sometimes there are last-minute changes, but
Yes, sir. Yes,
Just do
we
what we
will
can do.
emphasize that with applicants. We always do endeavor to try to resolve these issues and bring back language. There are, as occurred today, some instances where.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's great you're preaching to the choir on that. We've had kind of discussions about bringing evidence and things and allowing it for the day of. I couldn't agree with you more, though. So.
okay. With that, we're adjourned.